Welcome to the Charlotte City Council meeting for May the 14th. We're glad that you all are here. So first, we're going to have our introductions. I'm going to start with our city clerk. And Ms. Kuntz, would you please?
Good evening, Emily Kunze, Deputy City Clerk.
Good evening, Matt Newton, District 5.
Tarek Bakari, District 6.
Greg Phipps, District 4.
Luana Mayfield, District 3.
Temple Ajmera at large.
I'm Vi Lyles, Mayor, and Councilmember Mitchell is not feeling well and will not be able to attend tonight. So he sends his regrets for not being here. I'm sure he's going to watch us. Mr. Mitchell, I hope we're feeling better.
Good evening, Julie Eisel, Mayor Pro Tem and Councilmember at Large.
Happy Monday, Braxton Winston, Councilmember at Large.
Ed Driggs, District 7.
Good evening, Justin Harlow, District 2.
Larkin Eggleston, District 1.
Marcus Jones, City Manager.
Bob Hageman, City Attorney.
We open our meetings with an invocation or an expression of inspiration followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. The invocation is given by a council member and it's intended to solemnize our proceedings. We celebrate religious diversity in our community, including those that have without a religious faith. You're welcome to stand if you choose. I do ask if you choose not to stand, would you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Tonight's invocation will be given by Council Member Braxton Winston.
I'm not going to ask you to stand. We'll stand at the end for the pledge. There's some words that are often said that are timeless. And when I was said that I had to do the invocation tonight, I thought of these words. And from Haile Selassie's speech to the UN on October 4th, 1963. On the question of racial discrimination, that until the philosophy which holds one race superior and another inferior is finally and permanently discredited and abandoned, that until there are no longer first-class and second-class citizens of any nation, that until the color of a man's skin is of no more significance than the color of his eyes, that until basic human rights are equally guaranteed to all without regard to race, that until that day, the dream of lasting peace and world citizenship and the rule of international morality will remain but fleeting illusions to be pursued but never attained. And until the ignoble and unhappy regimes that hold our brothers and sisters in subhuman bondage have been toppled and destroyed, until bigotry and prejudice and malicious and inhuman self-interest have been replaced by understanding and tolerance and goodwill, until all people of the world stand and speak as free beings, equal in the eyes of all people, as they are in the eyes of heaven, until that day, the world will know no peace.
If you'll now stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. In our community, it's our tradition to recognize significant actions through our resolutions and proclamations. We have three proclamations that we'd like to present tonight. The first one is going to be presented by Councilmember Eggleston for the Salvation Army Week. And the second one will be followed by Councilmember Bakari for the Mecklenburg Declaration of Independence Week. And finally, but not least, of course, Councilmember Ajmera will present Asian American Pacific Islander Heritage Month for the month of May. So, Councilmember Eggleston, please.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Madam Mayor. City of Charlotte, North Carolina Proclamation. Whereas the Salvation Army of Greater Charlotte joins our city's leadership in envisioning a community where every person has the opportunity, hope, and dignity he or she deserves. And whereas the Salvation Army has been active in this community since 1904, providing emergency shelter for women and children and housing programs to help families get back on their feet, Boys and Girls Club programs to help youth who need us most reach their full potential as productive citizens, disaster services assistance in the wake of tragedy, and more. Now, I, she, Vi Alexander Lyles, Mayor of Charlotte, do hereby proclaim May 14th through May 18th, 2018 as Salvation Army Week.
May we have the representative of the Salvation Army come down and accept the petition, the proclamation, please. Thank you very much. Councilmember Bakari.
Thank you, Mayor.
And could the representative for the Mecklenburg Declaration of Independence Week please come down? And we recognize our former colleague, Mr. Warren Cooksey. We miss you.
As we approach our 250th anniversary of our great city, it's a great opportunity for us to look at our past, the good and the bad, and understand how it has created our present and how it will inform our future. So I have the great honor of reading a proclamation as part of that past. May 20th has been an important milestone in this city's history from civil rights perspectives as well as our own Mecklenburg Declaration of Independence. So I will read, whereas on May 19th, 1775, Charlottetown's founder, Colonel Thomas Polk, called for a convention of the Mecklenburg County militia leaders to be held in Charlotte. And whereas those 26 men, upon hearing of the Battle of Lexington and Concord, unanimously adopted resolutions to declare themselves a free and independent people in a document that came to be known as the Mecklenburg Declaration of Independence, or MECDEC. And whereas on May 20th, 1775, Colonel Polk read the Mecklenburg Declaration of Independence from the county courthouse to the assembled citizens. And whereas on May 31st, 1775, members of the Mecklenburg Committee of Safety adopted 20 additional resolutions, which came to be known as the Mecklenburg Resolves. And whereas a local tavern owner named Captain James Jack was called upon to deliver the Mecklenburg Declaration of Independence and Mecklenburg Resolves to the North Carolina's delegates at the Second Continental Congress in Philadelphia. And whereas Captain Jack delivered the MECDEC, telling the delegates that, gentlemen, you may debate here about reconciliation and memorialize your king, but bear in mind Mecklenburg owes no allegiance to and is separated from the crown of Great Britain forever. And whereas the state of North Carolina has chosen to recognize the significance of the Mecklenburg Declaration of Independence by placing the date of its signing, May 20th, 1775, upon our state flag and Great Seal. And whereas this May 20th, 2018 is the 243rd anniversary of the MECDEC, now, therefore, we, Vi Alexander Lyles, Mayor of Charlotte, and Ella B. Scarborough, Chair of the Mecklenburg Board of County Commissioners, do hereby proclaim May 14th through 20th, 2018, as Mecklenburg Declaration of Independence Week. I look forward to joining the celebrations Friday at noon at Trade and Tryon, and we have the wonderful former District 7 Rep. Warren Cooksey, board member since 2003, to accept this proclamation on behalf of the May 20th Society. Yes, you may also have the folders.
And he said it just like that.
That was pretty long.
Warren shouldn't have ridden up on a horse.
That's good. Councilor Ajmera, do we have someone that's going to accept our Dr. Chung? Are you here tonight?
Yes, Dr. Chun and Dr. Grace Galloway.
Dr. Grace Galloway, please.
So, as the first Asian American elected in Mecklenburg County, it's quite an honor to read this proclamation and recognize May as Asian American Pacific Islander Heritage Month. I see many Asian Americans here in the room who have paved the way for me and younger generations, and I'm grateful for your contributions, sacrifices, and services to this community. So after I read this proclamation, I'd like to invite Dr. Chun and Dr. Galloway to accept this proclamation on behalf of the Asian American community. For those who do not know Dr. Chun, he's an entrepreneur and philanthropist. Dr. Chun has been serving our city since 1977 by establishing the first Asian church, Asian Herald publication, and the Asian Library, which holds over 130,000 books in 4 languages. And the library is open for community use without any charge. And Dr. Chun also started Carolina's Asian American Chamber of Commerce to promote entrepreneurship among Asian Americans. For those who do not know Dr. Grace, who is here with us, she runs the Community Free Clinic to serve the most vulnerable members of our community. The work of Dr. Chun and Dr. Galloway both exemplify John F. Kennedy's famous words, "Ask not what your country can do for you, but ask what you can do for your country." So here it is. Whereas in 1977, Representatives Frank Horton and Norman Mineta introduced a House resolution to proclaim the first 10 days of May as Asian American Pacific Islander Heritage Week. And in 1990, President George Bush signed a bill passed by U.S. Congress to extend the week-long celebration to a month, and in 1992, the official designation of May as Asian American Pacific American Heritage Month became law. And Raleigh and Charlotte are home to the largest communities of Asian Pacific Americans in North Carolina, and whereas throughout history, Asian Pacific Americans have overcome adversity with strength and persistence to become leaders and trailblazers of industry and society in our nation. And whereas the efforts and contributions of Asian Pacific Americans can be seen in every aspect of society, including education, history, politics, healthcare, economics, and science, playing a pivotal role in America's history. Whereas Charlotte is proud to commemorate May as Asian American Pacific Islander Heritage Month and to recognize the contributions of Asian Pacific Americans to diversity, leadership, and empowerment throughout our nation's history. Now therefore, I, Y. Alexander Laus, Mayor of Charlotte, do hereby proclaim May 2018 as Asian American Pacific Islander Heritage Month.
Thank you, Dr. Joe. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Galloway. Thank you very much. We're always grateful for the opportunity to celebrate our community and the citizens that really make a difference. So thank you for everyone for what you do. We're now going to go into our consent and other adjustments to our agenda. So one of the first things that I wanted to note is that item 15 has been removed from the agenda by staff. Item number 16 has been settled and so will not need to be acted on by the council.
Excuse me, Mayor.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Item 56.
56. Another one?
That's
56. I'm sorry. My notes said I had written down the wrong number. So item 56 is settled and does not need council's approval. We have consent items that we put together and we vote on those because they're in the budget, they're in process or implementation of items or projects that we're already doing. And we have those items in our motion to adopt. We take one motion and we adopt all of those items with the exceptions that I had noted. In addition to one item that we also need to have an exception to is we have a citizen signed up to speak on item number 47. And so I would like to have a motion to adopt item 19 through 57 with those exceptions
So
noted.
moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Thank you very much for that. So the next item that we're going to address is item 47. And I'm going to ask our speakers to come down to the podium so that we can hear from them. And I have Lord Naksep and Mr. Joe Johnson. And this is an in-rim remedy that's on 2605 Booker Avenue. The action being asked by the council tonight is to adopt an in-rim remedy for this property for the public purpose to eliminate a blighting influence, reduce the proportion of substandard housing increase the value of the property by making land available for potential infill housing development, and to support public safety initiatives. And so before we begin deliberation on this item, Lord Nate, please, I hope I'm putting the hard sound on the right nouns, but I may not be. So if you would state your name, and you have 3 minutes to speak, and Mr. Johnson will follow with 3 minutes to speak.
All right, my name is Lord Nasib. I'm the son of the late Reverend Dr. Calvin Hood and Anna M. Hood. And it's ironic that I'm speaking today about an in-rem remedy such as my property at 2605 Booker Avenue. However, as other issues, I see this is a big meeting. A lot of folk here are talking about access to housing, and the city is seeking to tear my house down based upon it is an affordable unit, but in 3 minutes you cannot know all the facts of the case, and this is not the end for my property. There is an appeals process. So maybe in the appeals process, you'll become more aware of what's going on, but I can't see how the city of Charlotte is seeking to tear down a house, and we need affordable housing. As a general contractor, one of the issues they said was, why did it take you so long to fix your house? And I brought along my friend to explain a little bit of why it took me so long. But basically, I want to say that I received a letter in December from code enforcement asking me to repair, alter, and improve my property. I thus got a permit in January, and all of a sudden in May, one day, I've been working with code enforcement inspector Alex Gregory, and all of a sudden in one day, code enforcement official Mr. Christ says, we're going to put your house on the list. And I don't see how my house, when I spent over $15,000 since January, and I do have the receipts to verify this. These are current Lowe's receipts that I've been spending. I'm trying to fix my house so I can get out of poverty for my children. So in 3 minutes, I can't give you all the facts, but maybe in the appeals process, but this in remedy code enforcement process is flawed, and hopefully we'll be able to examine. My property wasn't valued. They use a formula of 65% of the value of your house, but that was then. Now my house is valued at $200,000. Gentrification is on Beatty's-Ford Road, Booker Avenue. So now as my house valued at $200,000, the 65% would be $80-some thousand. The repairs are nowhere near that. So I'm saying that's an old formula. We need to update that, take a look at that, because some of you grandparents, cousins, uncles are going to be faced with this same issue. Thank you.
So, Mr. Johnson, you have 3 minutes, sir.
Yes, ma'am. Hi, my name is Joe Johnson. I'm new to Charlotte, North Carolina. I met Lloyd coaching. He's one of the world's greatest basketball coaches I came across. He's kind, he's nice, he's a hard worker. And outside of him working on every day towards his home and his life, he supports kids in the neighborhood. He volunteers 700-800 hours with coaching, with just being a good person altogether. And where I'm from, you always look out for people, so he asked me to come speak in his behalf today about his character. Like I say, he's a wonderful person. He's a hard worker. I think that he does put in a lot of time with helping out the community. West Charlotte High School, Olympic High School, Team United. So he's very helpful in a lot of things that he does here in the community. And once again, I'm here for Lloyd just to speak on him as a person. Like I say, he's a hard worker. I've never seen a one-man Superman show in my life, and that's him. So I hope that I help him out as much as I can. You know, he's dapper don and dressed to impress today, and I I like that. I like to feed him a lot. I'm a chef here in Charlotte, so he likes to eat a lot, and he tastes my food. And I say, hey, man, I'm here to support you. So whatever decision you guys come up with, I hope it's in your best interest and best heart for him. He's trying to make sure he preserve his value of his home. He's a homegrown boy here in Charlotte, North Carolina. It's up and coming. Like I said, I'm new to the area. It's a growing city. I really appreciate it. I love it here. He loves it here. Like I said, he's from off of Booker Avenue, and that's off of Betty's Ford Road. I don't even know about Betty's Ford for 5 years, so I don't know too much about Charlotte, but like I said, he speaks highly of it, and he's over there every day working hard towards his goals, and I hope he gets it accomplished, and with you guys' help, we appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
So, Mr. Eggleston?
For staff, the date of inspection on this property was February 17th of 2017. Should I assume that that's the date of the 4 pictures that we're looking at as far as the condition of the home? Or are those more recent?
Those are more recent photos, sir.
Do you have a date on those?
Those are from approximately less than 60 days ago.
Okay.
I was personally at the site last week. I met Mr. Nassif on site and visited it myself. We are willing to work with Mr. Nassif, have worked with him since February of 2017, and I actually offered Mr. Nassif what we have entered into previously, an item called a consent agreement. And a consent agreement is an item where Mr. Nassif proposed a timeline to me in which he could finish all of the repairs himself. He requested and submitted 90 days. I thought that was more than reasonable, and I accepted that. And in accepting that and extending the time, part of a consent agreement is also the inclusion of a bond. All right, it is a posting of a bond and the amount of the cost that the demolition would cost the city of Charlotte to execute. In this instance, it's $6,105. I asked Mr. Nassif to post that bond, and we would clearly enter the consent agreement, grant him 90 days. He would be able to bring his property into compliance. Especially after working with him for 16 plus months, this creates the leverage for the city. And in this instance, Mr. Nassif has contested the posting of the bond and the posting of the bond only. We are, again, willing to work with him on time. The sole thing we're asking is the posting of the bond.
Sorry, my last question is just that, having been there last week, would you say that these pictures give an accurate depiction of the current state of the house?
Yes, sir, absolutely.
All right. So I have Mr. Winston and then the district representative, Dr. Harlow.
I guess this really is directed at my colleagues. I understand that there must be some utility to have some in-rem demolition type actions as we try to manage a city. But there's a point here about the cost, the cost of the value of the house that we're considering. That was, I'm assuming that was the value during the last valuation period for taxes versus what is actually valued out now. At a time that we are dealing with exorbitant land value increases and where people are continuously being displaced, and where we're a year out from the next valuation where it might say that a property like this is worth way more, where that proportion is going to seriously throw this out of whack and wouldn't even put this property into the type of consideration that we're considering today. I would question the wisdom of us kind of continuing to, especially in this next calendar year, of using this in-rem remedy of demolishing homes. It just doesn't seem fair, and this sounds like a way that we can not be complicit in some of this, the types of displacement that is happening citywide. So just something for our consideration.
Can I ask, is the house occupied right now?
No, ma'am,
The
and
pictures show that the flooring.
the reason the floor is like this.
No, I'm sorry, I'm talking to the staff person, so we give you 3 minutes and if there's a question, but I just wanted to know, is the house occupied now?
Mayor Lyles, the house is not occupied. There were permits that were acquired in January, and there has not been one permit inspection done on any work since January.
Thank you. Dr. Harlow, I'm sorry,
At this point, it's
Ms.
unsafe,
Mayfield?
the condition it's in.
I'm sorry, in the neighborhood, you're saying it's not safe for
Correct.
right now? Ms. Mayfield?
It was open and vacant the day that I was there.
Okay, Ms. Mayfield?
Thank you, Mayor. I agree with comments that were made by my colleague, Mr. Winston. All I want to share with my council colleagues are real-time example. So if you drive through historic Camp Green today, there have been a number of homes that have been demolished over the last 7 to 10 years, and vacant lots have been left there. More often than not, they become overgrown, whatever, because the way our current system is set up, the homeowner, if you're an absentee or a bad homeowner or a bad neighbor, isn't who's penalized. It goes on to the cost of the deed. But what is happening now, because of the proximity to Uptown, we have a new development that has $300,000 and $400,000 homes. You now have these vacant lots from where we have sought to clean up the neighborhood through condemnation and through the removal of these homes, where those lots are now being purchased in $300,000 and $400,000 homes are what are being built on them, literally, physically next door to homes that were valued at $50,000, $60,000. So the balance of that is those $50,000, $60,000 homes are now seeing an increase to where their values are about $85,000, $90,000. So they're just now getting to the point where, depending on the credit history of that homeowner, they may have an opportunity to go get a loan in order to do any repairs. Otherwise, if you're doing the repairs on your own, but your home was devalued to $35,000, $40,000, and you had to live with that since the 2011 evaluation, you're just now seeing an increase in what could be your property value, and that's only been within the last year and a half. So we're having conflicting conversations. Yes, looking at the pictures, this home needs some major repairs to it. But I also wonder, how aggressively are we supporting the idea of the partnership with Goodwill Construction, and or Realtors Care Day, and or Rebuild Together, really, because Rebuild Together, that partnership that was just created last year through our targeted rehab program, they will come in and do the type of major repairs, that's flooring and things that's going on in here, and have a small interest loan program. I'm concerned that as we're trying to address a need, that we're also not taking responsibility to how we have contributed to this need in communities through our condemnation process. And now, as new development is happening, do we have an opportunity to slow the situation down a little to at least give a real opportunity? Now, that's a different conversation if you're not doing the repairs. But I also know the reality that the majority of our community is not making living wage, which is $71,000 and some change a year. So I'm working class. I could not get these repairs done in a 6-month period. So I'm looking at this, and I just want us to take a moment to step back and really think about, because what I'm talking about is real time, right now, vacant lots where that home was devalued to next to nothing, and now a $400,000 home is being built on it, which means the person who owned the home don't even live in the city. That person lives in the vacant lot. That person lived out of state. If we have someone that's trying, if you're really trying, I think that's a very different conversation than someone that's just sitting. We can put ramifications in place to ensure that if you get this repaired, that it's going to be owner occupied and you have to own this home for X number of years. We do it with our current targeted rehab program, where we say if our partners come in and invest these dollars, you are going to have to maintain this home for X number of years in order for that grant to be paid off. We have a way to change this conversation if we are serious about being this world-class city that we keep talking about. And I just want us to think about that.
Councilmember Ajmira.
60 days.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Was this your primary residence before?
Yes, but I moved over.
Please
to
move to the podium
Microphone.
with the microphone, please. Thank you.
Yes, it was my primary residence, but I had to move over to Olympic High School District. But in January, when I got the permit, I cut my lease over there, so this is my primary residence, me and my son, and I'm a hardship sponsor of another kid. He lives with me. He'll be coming back to Booker Avenue, and now we don't have anywhere to go because I gave up my lease, and then I got all the equipment, the heating unit, but of course there have been some contractor delays because Charlotte is booming, but I want to be in that house by July. All I need is 60 days. The bond is what's not statutory, requiring me to put an additional $6,100 up when I have the money to fix it up, but that's it. I don't have the bond.
So to follow up, thank you. To follow up to that, have we connected him with some of the resources that we've been working with, other agencies?
Yes, I've spoken to my colleagues. Code enforcement is part of Housing and Neighborhood Services, okay? And therefore, I work very closely with Miles Vaughn and my partners in Pam as the director. We work within the organization. In this instance, we're all about granting him the additional time. It's creating the leverage based on the 16, 17 months. I want to make sure that everybody around the dais understands that we have worked with him. We will continue to work with him. We have granted an exorbitant amount of time in our process, and we will continue to do that. And we ultimately, as code enforcement, our goal is for folks to be successful and save the blighted structures. We bring less than 1% of the cases that we touch in front of council in order to pursue a demolition. In this instance, the structure is open and vacant. When I visited last week, it's unsafe for the community. All we're asking for is the leverage and the posting of the bond.
So just to clarify, this board will continue to give you an opportunity to negotiate with the homeowner. Is that correct?
The bond will be part of the execution of what we call a consent agreement. And a consent agreement is the timeline that Mr. Nassif and I agreed upon. He proposed it. I accepted his timeline without any modification. He requested 90 days that he will bring the structure into complete compliance, and I asked for a posting of the bond. That is solely the issue that is outstanding, is the bond.
I should have like 10 days to get the money.
I'm sorry. Okay. All right. Dr. Harlow. I'm sorry, did you?
No, I'm done, thank you.
Dr. Harlow?
Thank you, Mayor. We're not in the business of demolishing homes. I want that to be very clear. And Mr. Nassif, am I pronouncing that correctly?
Yes, sir, it's correct.
Nassif, appreciate you coming down here to give us another side to this, and Mr. Christ, thank you for being here as well. So I do have a few questions. I'm very familiar with this area. I live right up the street, and you said it, the gentrification is everywhere in this city now. Growth and development doesn't escape any corner, and it is vibrant and alive on Beatties Ford Road and the historic Washington Heights community that this house sits in. A couple questions for you, Mr. Nassif. Do you understand why the city is asking for the bond?
Yes, sir. It was just a time frame of like I had to have it immediately, and that at least I need some time to get the bond.
Okay, but you understand that?
Yes, sir, I understand, yes, sir.
I just wanted that to be clear. And then follow-up question to that is, you're saying that you actually were the one who indicated to code enforcement that you want 60, 90, you've said 60 today, 90 days, and that would be enough for you?
Yes, sir, that's all I was asking for. I mean, they agreed to the consent order. It was just that it wouldn't have been no good unless I had the bond, the $6,100.
So I know you have your code violation from December. Are you aware of any other code violations before that December date?
No, I had all the violations, and in that consent order, I've completed 65% of the violations already. The house has a new door on it. I don't understand why it has new doors on it. I put new windows in the house, so it's not open to the public. Matter of fact, my neighbors watch that house very intensely. All I'm saying is, before I got this letter in December, here's my order that I went it down and applied for a demolition permit. But when they said you could fix it up in December, obviously, in the condition of the house, they didn't expect me to fix it up overnight.
Sure.
And since that time, I've incurred over $15,000. The irrigation system, because the city has not put enough, I'm saying the water runs off down this big hill.
So I want you to, I'm allowing you some time to share your side. And I know 3 minutes is not enough. We're getting a better picture here, and I appreciate you sharing that.
And I've looked at the other 5 houses in Remington.
Mr. Nasif,
Okay,
you've worked towards this home. You can't come up with a bond immediately. Right now.
Yes, sir.
And I understand that. You've received other violations, and it's my opinion that we have an opportunity here, as some of my colleagues have mentioned, to slow some processes. And so we want to, and I'm curious if, from a staff standpoint, you said you want to work with him as well. But we're looking for some form of leverage here. Essentially, you don't want to have to come back to us again. Is that correct?
Correct. I'd like to have the ordinance in hand and that leverage created, and the citizen asked for 90 days to complete it.
So do you
pushing out?
Yes or no?
18 months.
Right. So you just need more time.
Yeah, but the
ordinance. Please.
Yes,
more time. You need more time.
Yes, sir.
Okay. You need 90 days.
Yes, sir.
All right. You understand what happens after 90 days?
I'm a little confused on the process of him obtaining an ordinance now and then holding that over my head. But if the consent order is in effect, I understand that the legality of the consent order. Yes, sir.
You understand, yes or no, that after 90 days, if we grant this extension for you and no progress has been made, your house will be demolished?
Oh, yes, sir. Yes, sir. I understand.
I want you to understand that.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right. So,
yes, sir.
I am, so thank you for those facts, and thank you, staff, for giving us the timeline around code enforcement. I would ask that this council consider a 90-day extension for this resident.
We have 90 days, but the form of that is that we adopt it and the staff makes a decision after 90 days. They would make the final decision. I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Mayor. I'm sorry.
Let me just make sure the council's clear.
Yeah, I want to be clear on this.
Because I think, Mayor, you characterized it a little bit different than a motion. I heard the mayor describe this as an intent to adopt the ordinance with instructions to staff to not act on it for 90 days. If that was the intent of the mover.
Yes.
That's what I thought I heard.
Okay. Just want to be clear.
So it would have to come back again.
Can we restate that?
What I just described would not require staff to come back to this council. It would be an authorization to demolish, but with instructions that staff not act for at least 90 days.
What happens if we don't pass an ordinance, period?
Then staff cannot move forward with demolition without your permission.
Come back.
And they have to come back.
Okay, so we have.
Can you repeat that one more time? Sorry.
As I understood Mr. Winston's question is what happens if no ordinance is adopted tonight? Then staff does not have the authority tomorrow or in 90 days to demolish unless they come back to you and get the council to adopt an ordinance.
I think Mr. Winston has a question.
So I would move not to pass an ordinance tonight, period. I know that this house, we're looking at the pictures, and you see a lot of cosmetic damage, but I see a mantle here with picture frames. I see old Coke bottles that have the names on it. I see other stuff that shows that people live here. I see out front, if these pictures were just rolled up on and taken randomly, I see a manicured lawn.
Right.
I see the landscaping taken care of. I know how difficult it is to get anything done in a home. I just became a homeowner this past year. You saw my yard. I mean, come on now.
I don't know if that's a neighbor of yours talking or not, Mr. Winston.
I'm just saying that I would say we should not, I would move to not pass an ordinance, period, tonight.
We have a substitute, you're making a substitute motion to take no action.
Yes.
On the demolition ordinance. So what would that mean? What would the staff do for the neighborhood that it lives in? It would just be open? And I'm asking the question, what would happen if we took no action? It would just be based upon whenever, or what?
I mean, if you gave me direction, no action for 90 days, I mean, I would just put it in a
I think Mr. Winston
pending
was not
status
saying
for
90
90
days,
days.
though. What happens if we say no to this altogether? No demolition ordinance?
That I would close the case with the direction that council instructed me to close this case and make the notes in the file that a substandard structure was, that case was closed out based on direction from city council.
I have Mr. Driggs and then Mr. Eggleston.
I just want to point out the staff is trying as leniently as possible to enforce our rules. If we say no at a time like this, we're basically cutting this guy off at the knees. He's doing everything he can. He has worked patiently. He will continue to do so. But we wrote these rules. If we want to change our policies, we have to adopt new policies. We can't just hit this guy with a change of mood. What happens when the next one comes? The next one comes. We have no point of reference. I'm in favor of passing this, and if we need to have a conversation about our policies about this, to do it on a different occasion. Thank you.
All right, I had Mr. Eggleston.
I just wanted to restate and be corrected if this is incorrect, that the owner was first notified on February 28th of 2017, but the homeowner here came and asked for 90 days, which he's telling us is sufficient to complete the work here, and that he asked that 90 days be without the bond, which is exactly what Dr. Harlow has proposed, is 90 days to get it fixed, which the owner said is enough, and not having to post that bond. So Dr. Harlow's motion is exactly what the homeowner has asked us for.
And that's what I seconded.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second.
Got a question for
I'm sorry, Mr. Newton and then Mr. Bakari.
And so I just had a quick question for clarification on the original motion, which was Councilmember Harlow's. So if 90 days were to pass, and this gentleman, what's the cutoff? What's the standard to assure that the demolition would not occur? Would it be complete remedy of all repairs, or would it be substantial, work towards remedying or, kind of repairing?
Well, he's making a commitment to have all repairs made. However, there's an element of discretion and common sense that if a substantial amount of work has been made and it's been brought out of a demolition criteria and it's no longer meets the threshold of 65%, staff is going to continue to work with somebody. I don't necessarily want to publicize that and just have everybody get every case out of demolition and they remain substandard. But there is an element of, if he's 90% done and is waiting on a final for an installation inspection, that we're going to continue to work with him even if it's the 91st day.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, we have a substitute motion. Did we get a second to the substitute motion?
No. Not yet.
No, he said he does not want to speak yet. So I got that. Okay, so we have a substitute motion. Is there a second to the substitute motion? Failing that, we go back to the original motion. All in favor of the original motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? One opposed. Thank you very much. Thank you. Mr. Hood, would you please speak with Mr. Christ, and he will work with you through this process to make sure that you have every opportunity to be successful, because we want you to be able to live on Booker Avenue.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, we have one more item before we go. I know all of you are here for the budget public hearing. We have one more item that was a separate vote from the consent. It's item 27, which is the lease of city-owned property on Siegel Avenue and grant to Envision Charlotte to adopt a lease approving a five-year lease between the city and Envision, a nonprofit organization for use of property at 932 Siegel Avenue, and to approve a grant agreement for the city's contribution of $500,000 to Envision to fund design and capital projects at the property for implementation of circular economy projects. This was pulled by Mr. Driggs. So, Mr. Driggs.
Madam Mayor, briefly, I would like to suggest that this be referred to the Environment Committee, because I don't believe Council has considered this investment. We had a conversation at our retreat, and we talked in general about this. But now we have a proposal that shows $500,000 on terms that we haven't discussed. It also talks about a peppercorn lease at $1 a year. We don't know what value that represents. And I think this ties into an item in next year's budget that has also not been discussed by Council. So I would just like us to have the opportunity to see this and be briefed on it more fully before it gets tucked into a consent agenda. Therefore, I'm suggesting it be referred to committee.
Ms. Ajmera?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As the chair of Environment Committee, I would like to just talk briefly about what this project is. This is a circular economy project. It is a model that we are trying to create that is going to set our city apart from other cities and really create our city a sustainable place to live. This is a very simple ask. We have discussed a circular economy concept, a concept where we recycle everything rather than dumping everything in landfill. We have discussed this even at the retreat, so I hope that you would consider supporting this this lease that is in front of us. It creates opportunities, it creates jobs, and it also creates a sustainable place for us to live. So I think it's very important. It may not have been the process, to Mr. Driggs' point, where we normally follow, but this is not something that we as a committee need to discuss. It's a very simple ask.
Madam Chair, are you speaking on behalf of your committee?
I'm sorry, I had Mr. Bakari and Mr.
But I'd like to respond.
All right, Mr. Driggs would like permission to respond.
I'd just like to know if that opinion is expressed on behalf of all the members of your committee or is a personal opinion.
So I have talked to my committee members.
I mean, was it an agenda item in your committee, and was it duly approved by the committee and referred to Council for action? Because this is something that ought to be considered by us, particularly in conjunction with the continuing investment, which we also haven't seen yet. And putting it in consent is just not the way we make these decisions.
So may I respond to that, Mayor?
I think that we have a disagreement that we understand. Okay, so I'm going to ask the other council members. I have Mr. Bakari, Mr. Phipps, and Ms. Eisel.
Yeah, I would concur with Councilmember Driggs on this one. We've had some great conversations about the circular economy and elements there, and then all of a sudden this kind of just popped up in this specific detailed form. So when we're in an environment where we are making very tough decisions about officer pay and about affordable housing, $500,000 is a big deal, and it deserves diligence. So I will support Councilmember Driggs' recommendation for it to go back to committee so we can explore it properly as a group and then bring it back to the whole council.
All right, Mr. Phipps.
I thought that in our budget proposal we have something to the effect of supporting a circular economy, and I'm wondering, by virtue of putting it in the consent item, if for some reason that this doesn't make it in the budget process, are we more or less having a backdoor way of this getting approved without it going through the budget process? So I would say that it's, to me, that it needs to be something that's considered and brought back.
Okay. I have Mayor Pro Tem and then Mr. Eggleston.
Thank you, Mayor. My understanding, it was in last year's budget under innovation and sustainability. Is that right, Mr. Manager?
Yes, so,
Or
Mayor,
the current budget that we're in right now.
right, so, Mayor, members of council, what we had in the current budget is $500,000 for what we call smart city initiatives. And at one point, there was going to be an international meeting in June dealing with 4 cities by cities with this smart city initiative. That's been put off until next year. And if it's the will of this council to defer this, that's fine with me.
Ms. Mayor Pro Tem? Yes.
What are the implications of that, of deferring this?
So what we have in the budget, the proposed budget that's in front of you, is funding to repair a building that we own. So we own the barn. So this would have been an opportunity to have some demonstration projects in a facility that we own when we were going to have an international conference. So again, in terms of this particular initiative, if it's the will of the council to have this in a committee or to have it put into consideration with the other proposal in 2019 budget, I'm fine with that.
I have Mr. Eggleston.
Two things. My colleague, Mr. Bakari, who's stepped away for a second, but this is not taking away from anything else, particularly in this upcoming budget, because to the Mayor Pro Tem's point, this was in the past budget, but this is something I know some of us, and I have two reasons to be particularly interested in it and have dug a little deeper on it. It's A, physically in my district. B, as the Vice Chair of the Environment Committee, this obviously falls into our purview. So I don't expect that everyone else would have sought out the opportunity to dig into this deeper with Ms. Oskar, who's going to be spearheading this project, but I have, and am very supportive of it and would hope that we would move forward with a vote and a supportive vote of this project tonight.
Mr. Winston?
I want to echo the words of my colleague, Mr. Eggleston. I think this is a good choice. I think we should not, I think we have other things to deal with in the Environment Committee moving forward as we kind of continue on the path of a more green city, a more circular economy. This was money that was in last year's budget, the current budget. So, you know, we can drag our feet all we want, but I don't think that's that we have the time to do that. I think we have much bigger things to do, and we should take this step and move on with the next steps.
Okay, I have Dr. Harlow.
Thank you, Mayor. You know, to me, when we first joined this council, we were asked, how do we get things done, right? And we said, well, you can move things through committee, we can talk to the manager, we can get things added to the agenda. One way or another, this got to the agenda. We talk a lot about, you know, wanting to be a winning city of tomorrow and today, and innovation and entrepreneurial exploration and a clean city and all of these things. This helps do that. Mm-hmm. We've talked about this at our retreat. We say this all the time when we quote our 10 traits of winning cities. But if we get so bogged down in process, then we're no different than all the bureaucrats before us.
Well,
so
thank you, Mr.
Present company excluded.
Right. Before this dais is what I meant. Yeah. But nonetheless.
So if you remember last time, you just went through a convergence process.
I just, you know, I don't want the point to be lost on age and things, but the reality is this, is that if we want to support innovation and if we want to support, you know, new but smart ideas, we talk so much about, do we have the will? Let's have the will here and do it.
Madam Mayor, would you entertain a motion to approve?
Second.
We have a motion to approve and a second, and I have Mr. Newton, and then Ms. Mayfield would like to comment.
I'll just very briefly build upon the comments of Councilmember Harlow, Eggleston, Winston, and Ajmira, and just also drill down on the point that this is something that would give us not just a nationally competitive advantage, we're talking about an internationally competitive advantage. The only other city exploring this technology in the United States is Phoenix. And so I would support us moving forward, getting this done, having a vote tonight.
All right, Ms. Mayfield and Ms. Mayfield?
And also.
I know, but I've got it. You were next.
I was just waiting for you to finish. Thank you, Mayor. So, Mr. Manager, I hope what you hear is some concern in the process. There was understanding for some members that when we have a conversation, then before it's presented to council for a vote, more than 1 or 2 people are aware of it. Or as far as my colleague, Mr. Phipps, and for me, looking at the budget, it looks as if a budget was presented to us with information in there based off of individual conversations, not a collective conversation. I do have concerns with us identifying a funding line item for this. I do not have concerns with the lease. We have done dollar leases across the city to create and encourage entrepreneurship and opportunity in community. I do have a concern with us identifying a $500,000 line item, and the fact that we also have in the budget a request that is just your recommendation, but how that recommendation came to us. When we're talking about 100,000 here, 300 there, 500 there, it might not seem like a lot, but it is when it starts adding up. I just think it would have been helpful to have more conversation around identifying a line item, identifying what exactly this line item is to cover. Is this $500,000 for staff? Is it for the building? Is it for promotion and marketing? Is this in partnership with hospitality and tourism? Since we're trying to be a leader and only Phoenix is the only other location that's doing this, it would be helpful to have more answers than just identifying and coming to us tonight saying, yes, we want to do a dollar lease and $500,000. I have a concern with us appearing to not take into consideration all these hundreds of thousands of dollars adding up very, very quickly without full council being aware. Or the fact that it seems that we're creating an environment where 1 or 2 council members, we can come, say, this is our pet project, this is what we want to move forward, and then it's presented for full council to vote on. Because then you trigger conversations like this, and I don't think it's a conversation of newly elected members versus the council members who may have been here 1 to 4 terms, however that number is. I think it's a conversation of process, and a process that some people were familiar with, and a new process is being created without everyone being a part of the conversation.
Mayor Pro Tem.
So I agree with my council member colleague about the process, and that's fair. This particular item, again, it's in the existing budget. We've talked about the circular economy. This is to renovate a building so that we can work on the circular economy. What's going to come out of this effort, this initiative with the circular economy, are jobs. It has the potential to create a whole new area of jobs for people with high barriers to employment, other types of jobs and other levels of jobs that we need in this city. So I support this.
So, Mayor, please let me respond to that, because we have economic development opportunities that are presented to us all the time. And we're also told by the city attorney that we cannot mandate a local hire. So to say that this would create jobs without us specifically being able to target who has access, because we brought a lot of headquarters and a lot of companies. I have a lot of companies within District 3. I have probably, if not the largest, the second largest employment center throughout the area, and also have the highest unemployment rate of minorities. So the jobs are coming, but the people who need access to the majority of the jobs are not the ones who are being connected to them. So unless we're saying that with this We have it in writing, and we have it clearly committed that here is our target audience, and this is what we're doing in partnership with Central Piedmont or Goodwill or whoever it is to make sure the training happens. It is very difficult to say, well, this is going to create jobs, because they all create jobs. The question is who has access to them, because the majority of the people don't even live within the city limits that get access to these jobs. They live outside of the city and drive in.
I'm not talking about the renovation of this building. I'm talking about the circular.
I'm not talking about the renovation.
Okay.
To me, I don't want us to consider that the only jobs that we're saying that those who are chronically underemployed or unemployed can do is backbreaking work. If we're going to talk about the opportunity to get in using Black Tech Charlotte or whatever group it is, if we're saying that we have the language in place to ensure that people have opportunity, that's a very different conversation. Other than that, it just sounds good for a soundbite.
All right, Mr. Bakari.
Mr. Driggs was next,
I had you as being next, so I have Mr. Driggs as
All I was going to say is I don't think you have to be against this being a good idea to being against the fact that we're having this dialogue around the dais right now, and $500,000 is a lot of money. We are about to have a conversation on officer pay increases. We're about to have a conversation with our city on raising taxes. We have an affordable housing challenge that we need to address, that the group Away Home, if they had $500,000, they'd put 50 homeless or near homeless people in their 18-month program, and they'd have 77% results of them being able to afford market rate housing. That's a lot of money. You don't have to be against the circular economy concept to vote against this right now. We can move fast and nimble, but being smart and innovative isn't dumping a huge ton of money out with little conversations and making bad deals like we just walked through one that we made 11 years ago in our dinner meeting. It's about tying the right strings to these things and making sure that we've crafted a good deal and we're going to get the return from the taxpayer dollars.
You know, the money is to renovate a city property that needs renovation.
That's right.
And give it away for $1 a year.
No, it's a lease.
We own it.
We were not giving it away, it's a lease.
Giving it away.
It is a lease. Anyway, I just want, you know, sometimes we have to look at these things, but I just wanted to make sure not to
That could be an affordable housing unit.
Well, excuse me, I'm just wanted to say, it was a situation where it's in the existing budget, and we can take it and move it, of course, to the new budget if that's a majority vote of the council. The other thing about it is that the money is for the renovation of a city-owned building, so it's an asset going towards an asset repair. Now, that doesn't matter. I think what I'm hearing is, and I'm sorry, Mr. Driggs, I should have called on you next, and let me do that.
Thank you, Mayor. I would just like to point out for our new members that we're talking about principles of good governance here, all right? And you cannot brush aside as some inconvenient bureaucracy some of the principles that are at stake. One of them, as I think most of you touted so vigorously when we all convened, was openness. This decision is being made on the basis of individual conversations that took place offline in corridors and behind closed doors. You all got some knowledge about this. I didn't. And we haven't sat here together, and now we're doing it at completely the wrong time. We're having the conversation that we should have had on another occasion to make a decision about a commitment of resources. I would just like to see us preserve the notion that our decisions are being made as a result of deliberations that everybody can see.
Yeah.
So I think we have a motion and a second. And Mr. Winston.
I just got to say that this, I highly disagree with that. I highly disagree with that. This showed up on our consent agenda item, just like dozens of consent agenda items show up twice a month. And we ask our questions and we have our discussions. Sometimes we have too many discussions and we say that we get cut off and we get doubted for what we believe in because we're asking so many questions. So this is not unlike anything that we've ever done before. Perhaps there have been one or two people that talk about it. They haven't talked about it to me about it, but this is not any different than how we've been running meetings, at least for the 5 months that I've been here.
And so, I think everyone, this is what I've heard from the group. One, it came out on the consent agenda, perhaps at a time that we had our budget come out. We've had a lot of meetings. There's a lot of stuff going on in our world right now, and for that, we are juggling a number of things. And the second thing I want to make sure is that this was discussed in last year's budget as a concept. It was at the retreat when Envision came in. I remember this because she had the shoes that you were redoing out of the rubber, and it was about the circular economy at our retreat, and we said that we wanted to adopt this in principle. And in some respects, the staff has gone ahead and worked with Envision Charlotte to get a realistic estimate of how do you have a space that they can use to start talking about how we recycle instead of putting things in landfill. That said, it does sometimes what the facts are doesn't matter if people don't perceive them the right way. And so I get that part as well. So I know that there's a motion on the table. What I would say, Mr. Manager, is you've heard this conversation, and even if this fails or is approved tonight, we've got some work to do on the specific topic as you proceed in any direction. So we have a motion and a second. Let's vote on it, and I think the manager's smart enough to have heard. Guys, I'm going to say this final thing. I know that we're under a lot of stress right now. I just acknowledge that. We've got a lot of people waiting to hear and speak to us, and we're going to listen politely, and we're going to do that in a way that's respectful. And I want you to know that every one of the women and men around this dais cares deeply about it. We are just at a time that we're having a lot of things going on, and I think that that's more indicative of where we are. And I'm certainly glad that we have a motion. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
No.
We have 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 yeses and 4 no. 6. That's right.
6 yes.
He meant to vote. He wasn't here. Okay, so the motion passes. Now, thank you, everyone, for your patience, and thank you for the conversation. It's better to get it out in the open than not tonight. Okay. All right, so we are now at the point that we are at our public hearings, and we have a number of public hearings tonight. And I'm going to ask that we have a public hearing for, let me get to it. I'm going to ask the city clerk, do we have people signed up to speak on items 13 or 14?
No, Madam Mayor.
So with the audience in mind, first I'd like to recognize we have 2 members of our Charlotte Water Advisory Committee who have come for a public hearing tonight, but we have no speakers. Ms. Leslie Jones and Frank McMahon, over here. There we are. Thank you very much for coming. So I'd like to have a motion to open public hearing the public hearing on Charlotte Water Revenue Manual revisions. I have a motion for that?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All right, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion to close the public hearing, a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor say aye. Thank you very much. The next public hearing that we have is a public hearing on the Ernst & Young LLP Business Investment Grant for the city's share of a business investment grant to Ernst & Young for a total estimated amount of $154,409 over 5 years.
Move to open.
Can I have a motion to open and close the public hearing?
Move to open and close.
Move to close.
All in favor,
Second.
say aye. Aye. Thank you very much. So that concludes our public hearings with the exception, I'm sorry.
That agenda item also had a B, which is to actually approve the grant. So
I'm
you closed the
sorry, I
public
did not
hearing.
see the B. Can I have a motion to approve the city's share of the business investment grant to Ernst & Young for a total estimated amount of $154,000 years?
Second.
I've got a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Thank you, Bob. Appreciate it. Okay, now, we're at that point of our meeting where we're going to open the public hearing on the PRO's 2019 operating budget and the 2019-2023 community investment plan. And we have a large number of speakers signed up this evening. Because of the large number of speakers, we will give 2 minutes for you to have your comments. We want to make this process work for everyone as efficiently and effective, so we're going to ask our odd number speakers to speak to the podium on, is it odds over here? On the left, my left, and the even numbers on the right. And I'm going to start by asking the speakers to come down, and I'm going to ask several of you to come down to the podium so that we can move immediately. So I'll call 3 people at each time so that we can have people waiting on either side. So I'm going to actually call 6 names, if that's okay. So the first speaker that we have is Adam and I will apologize in advance for any mispronunciation of names. Adam Raskowski on bicycles. Jennifer Cook is number 2 on police department budget. Larry Mackey, number 3 on employee health benefits. Police department, Brad Starnes over here. Number 5 is police pay and benefits for firefighters and police, Gregory Sharp, and Michael Frenesis on this side. So thank you all for your patience. We'll have 2 minutes. There will be a bell, and in order for me to be fair to everyone, I will ask you to stop at the time that the 2 minutes is up. So first, Mr. Rakowski, thank you.
Thank you. Good evening. I'm Adam Raskowski, Chair of the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Bicycle Advisory Committee, also known as the BAC. I'm here tonight to share our recommendations regarding funding for bicycle transportation, as well as thank the Mayor, the City Council members, City Manager, and City staff who have supported and heard the bicycle community during the long budget process. Charlotte is experiencing a time of exciting growth, but many of our residents are being left behind. As Charlotteans face these challenges, the BAC wishes to emphasize that a complete transportation system offering alternatives for safely getting around is critical for connecting people, including those who cannot or do not drive, to their city and its opportunities. Therefore, the BAC unanimously recommends that Council provide full funding for the bike program in this budget, as described in the 2017 Charlotte Bikes Plan and is included in the City Manager's proposed budget. We believe this funding is critical for 3 primary reasons. The first is to improve the safety and practicality of bicycling for transportation in Charlotte. Dedicated funding will help close gaps between existing bike facilities, as well as provide educational resources and funding for many other safety and usability improvements. The second is to fully leverage investments the city is making in the critical areas of housing and transit. The median Charlotte household spends 22% of its budget on transportation. Bicycling as a reliable option can significantly reduce this cost for residents coping with rising housing prices and make trips to and from transit stops easier. The final reason is that bicycle-friendly streets and the presence of bike riders calms traffic and increases drivers' awareness, making streets safer for all users. Investing in bicycling reinforces Charlotte's commitment to reducing traffic deaths and injuries as expressed in Vision Zero. A complete transportation system that includes bicycling is the connective tissue that holds a city together for the reasons we've shared tonight, as well as many others that our time does not permit us to describe. These benefits have been realized in cities around the world, and they can happen here in Charlotte if the city commits to fulfilling our bicycle plan. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ms. Cook?
I'm the wife of Officer Travis Cook. I'm here on behalf of the families of Charlotte police officers. I see my husband less than 20 hours each week. I have known him for 9 years, and I've never spent New Year's Eve with him. I don't get to watch fireworks with him on the 4th of July, and he doesn't get to go trick-or-treating with other families on Halloween. When there is a major event such as the DNC or a riot, we the spouses must take time from our jobs in order to take care of our families while these officers are called in to work 12-hour shifts with no days off. This is the life we chose. We sacrifice our families so that they can protect yours. What does the safety of your family or the members of the city who voted you into this position mean to you? Providing proper safety for the city is having highly trained and skilled officers. Without veteran officers, there will be no one here to mentor new ones. Unless these requests of the officers behind me are taken seriously, you will continue to lose seasoned, highly talented officers at an alarming rate. Families are deciding that they would rather their spouses be employed with a department where they are surrounded by veteran officers and a city that supports them. These officers work as a team. They teach each other. They protect each other, and they will follow each other. Lastly, I would like to remind you of a few requests these officers have made: a 15% raise, 13 steps to 7, retiree health insurance. The proposal made by the city manager has a lot of fine print you should read a little more finely. In the proposal, those in steps 2 through 6 wouldn't get an increase at all beyond what is already in place. For others who have been there longer, it wouldn't be more than 2.5% above what is the normal cost of living and merit increases. The proposed merit step decreasing from 13 to 12 actually causes lateral new hires to start out making more than officers who have been on staff with CMPD for over a decade. It is a good thing you're looking into affordable housing because most of your officers can't even afford to live in the city they protect. Thank you.
Mr. Mackey, please we've got a number of people, we want to make sure everyone is heard. Thank you. Mr. Mackey?
Yes, I want to say thank you. Thank you to the council member allowing us to speak. We want to speak about hardship. Y'all did a lot of hard work for us in the past, and it was good, and we appreciate that. But with this insurance that we have today, it's hardship if you have to use it. My clinic, the best thing you ever did. And we appreciate that. But if anything is beyond my clinic, we can't afford it. When a man have to have a surgery, a knee surgery, and he have to go in his 401k to get $5,000 out to have that knee surgery, that's unheard of. When a man had a procedure done, and he's in the E plan with his wife, and he had a procedure done, he paid $4,000. But at the end of the year, after he paid his premium also, that's $12,000. And if he have to do anything for his wife, that can be up to $16,000. Who can give $16,000 up like that? We have another gentleman, his wife needed a test, $1,700. He's been putting $2,000 a year in his flex. Well, February, he paid $1,700 for one test. The $2,000 used to last him all year, and he had to find ways to get rid of it. Well, now he's short, and he's coming out of his pocket for his dental and his vision. We need affordable health care. It's very important because we're working for you. We come to work with things on our minds because our family we can't do for.
Okay.
We need affordable health.
Thank you. Mr. Starnes? Brad Starnes? Oh, I'm sorry. I thought I had, okay. I do not have a Brad. Gregory Sharp?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, sorry.
It's okay. Madam Mayor, Council, Mr. Manager, I spoke to you on April 23rd about retiree health insurance, an issue that we continue to gather data on so that we can work closely and collaboratively with city staff to bring you a fiscally responsible plan that supports our future retirees. Hopefully that also brings about some changes in health care for those that are still working, like Mr. Mackey. I made a grave mistake that evening. I believed pay plan adjustments would follow the same unwritten city HR policy used for the past 20 years, and the fire pay plan would adjust with the police pay plan to keep a 5% gap between the two. When I was on the fire pay plan committee, I asked, why are we 5% behind the police? The answer, the police have a more dangerous job. I was a police officer for 13 years, 6 with CMPD, and have been a firefighter for the city for 21 years. I can tell you unequivocally that is not true. We both face threats to our lives in our efforts to protect the lives and property of those living, working, and playing in Charlotte. Many times, your firefighters and police officers are standing side by side facing the threats to our great city. Our firefighters have been under fire several times over the years without ballistic protection, and at times getting a police officer to safety or providing medical aid to one of our brothers or sisters in law enforcement who has been injured while doing their duty. I was in command of one of those incidents along South Tryon Street, and one of my colleagues will give you a first-hand account of having to abandon his truck for cover and assisting one of our law enforcement officers who had been shot. The manager stated his recommendation was in line with a 2-year pay plan adjustment for the fire department. The goal of this plan was to bring us closer, if not to, parity. The current recommendation places us 22% behind in annual salary for an entry-level position with a 4-year degree. Break this down hourly, and we are 39% behind the police. The manager and council have identified a problem recruiting and hiring a highly skilled and diverse workforce within CFD. One simple question. If you are a minority candidate just graduating from college with a 4-year degree, or any candidate for that matter, looking for a job in public safety, you have the choice of earning $51,000 per year or earning $40,260 per year. Which one would you choose?
Thank you very much, Mr. Sharp. I'm sorry. I was going to say hi, Michael, but no, hi, Mr. Fennessy. Sorry.
Good evening, Manager, Mayor, City Council. My name is Mike Fenice, and I am a Charlotte firefighter. You should remember my name from the countless emails, letters, and personal conversations regarding retiree health care. I'm here tonight again to talk to you about this. The City Manager has proposed a retiree health investment account for anyone hired after July 1st, 2009. This is not the end-all be-all of the ongoing problem of post-employment benefits, but this is a step in the right direction. I ask you, City Council, to approve this, along with enacting the employee contribution. This will give the employee more control of their future and the costs associated with retiree health care. We can make it better, but it's a good start. I also come here tonight to talk to you about the Public Safety Pay Plan. There is no doubt my brothers and sisters in blue of the CMPD deserve the 6.5 the proposed budget states. In fact, they deserve more. The CMPD has a different title and job classification, but with the CFD, we are both public safety. Therefore, City Council, I urge you to also give my brothers and sisters of the CFD an increase. Both CMPD and CFD have dangerous jobs. Each day when we report to work, there's no guarantee we will go home. Along with these stresses, CFD also has an increased rate of cancer, cardiac issue, and overall shorter lifespan. We never expected to get rich from these jobs. We were called to them. Helping the great citizens of this great city is very fulfilling. But having to work 1, 2, or even 3 side jobs to provide for your family is not. We are not asking to be the highest paid fire department in the country. We are asking for fair pay and benefits. I ask you, City Council, do the right thing and increase the fire department's pay. I thank you for your time in this matter. If you have any questions, you have my contact information.
Thank you, we do. All right, so we can get to the next 6 people. Jonathan Griswold, Tom Brewer, Kate Cavaza, Jeff Viscount, Chris Barrow. Okay. All right, so let's start. Mr. Griswold, please.
Good evening, Mayor, council members, and manager. My name is Jonathan Griswold, and I have been on the fire department for 3 years. When I was assigned to Engine 37, we responded to a call of a person suffering from a gunshot wound. As we arrived, the police were right behind us. As we pulled in and we got off the fire truck, the police and ourselves came under fire. We had to seek cover behind a fire truck and some bushes. While undercover, we hear an officer call out, "I've been hit, where's medic?" Myself and another fireman leave our protection from our truck and bushes and go to this police officer's aid in the middle of an open parking lot. We bring him back to an ambulance and continue to care as gunshots continue to ring out. We have no way of protecting ourselves as we do not have bullet-resistant vests nor a firearm, but yet we're told our jobs are less dangerous than the police. This recommendation makes me feel as you place a greater value on a police officer's life than my own. I must also remind you of the civil unrest that we had in Charlotte, where CFD personnel, including myself, were standing right behind, if not right next to police officers. Firefighters were driving CATS buses because the CATS personnel refused to drive the police into the front lines without protection. I was under the assumption that when the police pay plan is adjusted, the fire plan gets adjusted the same. After seeing the proposed budget, I find that is incorrect, and I find that to be a slap in the face. We face similar risks in our lives. Many times we face them together. So bring us into unification and pay us make the raises the same. Where a police officer has a chance to choose not to go into a burning building, I didn't get that chance when the gunshots rang out. So I asked City Council and Manager to revisit the proposed budget and not further the separation of police and fire plans.
Thank you very much. Mr. Brewer, go ahead, please.
Good evening, thank you. My name is Tom Brewer.
I'm representing the nearly 750 members of the Charlotte Firefighters Association. A lot has been said in this budget about the dangers and the issues facing CMPD. Do they deserve a raise? Absolutely. Every city employee deserves a raise. Do they deserve $2,500 bonus for living in the city limits? Absolutely. Every city employee should be given that benefit. I also want to talk about retiree health care. Retiree health care, and more importantly, affordable retiree health care. While it's not in the budget, this issue will affect every city employee and their families. This is the #1 thing that we hear from our members. It was said during the budget presentation, and it's been said by many council members, that the national trend is moving away from retiree health care. World-class cities don't follow trends, they create trends. We should be the city that brings it back for its workforce. This issue is especially important to our members for a couple of reasons. In the interest of time, we'll just focus on cancer. The cancer rate for firefighters is 3 to 4 times that of the general public. From 2014 to 2017, 41 Charlotte firefighters were diagnosed with cancer. 3 of our brothers and sisters, unfortunately, Barbara Beam, Jeff McGill, and Seth Tinsley, lost their battle. And we know that number is higher, but we have no way to track the retirees that have cancer. Whether we spend a career as a firefighter, a police officer, working for the water department, sanitation, we work in the office for the city, you name it, retiree health care is the right thing to do for all city employees. We'd like to thank the citizens of Charlotte and City Council for the opportunity to serve this great city. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Cavazza, Ms. Cavazza. Thank you. And then Jeff Viscount will be next. Ms. Cavazza, thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor Lyles, members of City Council, and staff. My name is Kate Cavazza, and I'm the Bicycle Program Manager at Sustain Charlotte. Tonight, I am here to express Sustain Charlotte's support for the transportation funding in the proposed 2019 budget. Specifically, we support the proposed full funding for 3 initiatives: to begin implementing the city's bicycle plan, for sidewalk and pedestrian safety to continue in implementing the city's pedestrian plan and program, and to fund CDOT's new Vision Zero program, which will work to eliminate traffic deaths and serious injuries. By funding the bicycle, pedestrian, and Vision Zero plans, which were adopted by Council last year, we will move Charlotte one step closer to becoming a world-class city for walking and biking. More funding to complete sidewalks and bike networks will reverse declines in transit ridership, since 80% of riders walk or bike to and from their transit stops. It's not a secret that we have a long way to go to compete with our peer cities' biking and pedestrian infrastructure. Our partners at the National Cycling Advocacy Organization at People for Bikes recently gave Charlotte a score of 2.2 out of 5 in their city's new rating system for bikeability. We have a lot of catching up to do. And 2017 was the most tragic for pedestrians in Charlotte's history. 27 pedestrians were hit and killed by cars on our city's streets. It's just in a single year. As you move toward the adoption of the 2019 budget, we urge you to fully support the manager's recommendations for funding the bicycle, pedestrian, and Vision Zero programs this year, next year, and every year to come, so community members all around the city can have equal access to safe, affordable, and healthy transportation choices, no matter where they live. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Viscount, thank you. Followed by Mr. Zimmerman.
Good evening. My name is Jeff Viscount. I'm here to encourage you to include funding for the Charlotte Bikes Bicycle Plan in the upcoming budget. We promote our city as a bicycle-friendly in many ways. In fact, the 2019 budget proposal cover is a picture of sunshine, bubbles, and bikes. But in reality, we're a long way from that picturesque cover shot. Just a few short weeks ago on the Booty Loop, an area that many consider the safest place in Charlotte to ride a bicycle, Stacy Stranick was killed. Stacy was a wife and mother of 3 beautiful children. She was very active in many local charities, a local business owner, and a friend to many. On the morning of April 21st, riding on the Booty Loop, Stacy was struck and killed by a driver that failed to yield the right of way. Her senseless death is a reminder of how much work we still have to do how important this bicycle plan is and how important funding is to put the plan into action. The League of American Bicyclists rates Charlotte as a bronze level when they identify bicycle-friendly cities. The League cites a lack of bicycle facilities, connectivity, funding, enforcement, and a very high fatality rate as the barriers we must overcome to be recognized as a silver or gold community. In a recent study by People for Bikes, Charlotte was given only 2.2 stars out of 5. The study looked at ridership, safety, connectivity, equity, and the speed at which our city is making improvements. In 2 key areas, safety and connectivity, we scored 50% worse than the highest scores in those categories. When it comes to being a bicycle-friendly city, we are behind. But we can catch up, and we may even get ahead, but only if we take advantage of this opportunity to fund the comprehensive bike plan. I encourage each of you to support the bicycle plan by voting in favor of the requested funding when that time comes. Thank you for your time and the opportunity to speak.
Thank you very much. Mr. Zimmerman.
Thank you, Mayor Lyles. And thanks, Adam Ruskowski and Jeff Viscount and Kate Cavazza for speaking in support of the funding for the bike plan. I'm actually listed to speak about the funding for the bicycle program. I'm actually supposed to be speaking on the bicycle program, but I think that if we group the bicycle program and the pedestrian budget and the Vision Zero budget and see them as a total package, we've got the right conception. And I do especially want to thank the city manager's staff. He's ducking out right now. People like Danny Pleasant, I believe, sitting over here right now. People at CDOT and the CDOT staff, Dan Gallagher, Vivian Coleman, and others. And members of the current BAC committee for moving this agenda forward. And I think I left out the pedestrian coordinator for the city. We can't move forward without having city staff behind us. We're almost at the finish line now, and when we get to the finish line for the vote by City Council, I have full confidence you will support these programs at the current levels, which are significantly higher than the levels we've had in the past for all 3 of these programs. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. All right, so the next set of speakers, Chris Barrow, Sam Spencer, Dr. Robert Scott, Michael Marsicano, and Ricky Hall.
Can I wait till the city manager comes back? He's the one who sets the budget. He needs to hear what I have to say.
Well, thank you. I tell you what, why don't we go to the next speaker then? We'll do that. All right, Mr. Spencer.
Thank you very much. My name is Sam Spencer, and while I'm honored to serve on the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Planning Commission, I'm speaking tonight as a private citizen. I would like to join the Planning Commission, Mayor Lyles, and many others in endorsing the $50 million affordable housing bond in the proposed city budget. It's an excellent first step. Done correctly, we can leverage the city's investment to encourage the private sector, the nonprofit community, and the faith community to partner and make their own contributions to the trust fund. In politics, we call that a triple match. I'm a Charlotte homeowner, and the estimated property tax increase for me is the cost of a takeout pizza. With what this bond can accomplish, it's a bargain for taxpayers. The housing bond is an important part of a multifaceted approach to address our affordable housing needs. Many groups, including the Planning Commission, have introduced useful policy ideas to reduce barriers, provide incentives, and protect existing and future affordable housing. The Planning Commission also provided a vision for this effort, stating that every member of our community should be able to live, work, and grow in every zip code in the Queen City. If you're a cynic, it's easy to say that that will never happen. But that's the community many of us want to live in. We have to work towards it. If we truly believe in an equity approach, we have to take action. An equitable government acknowledges and remedies its previous failures. We should never ignore the reality that previous generations and governments caused the current opportunity crisis. We put up the barriers to opportunity. We have to get this right. However, if we get this right, new doors will be unlocked for folks who have never had an opportunity to create wealth or home equity. We can make sure that for the first time, every member of our community has the chance to build wealth and access opportunity. Many of the decisions we're going to have to make to build a more equitable community are going to be hard. This one isn't. Let's practice equity by helping our community build equity. Support this bond. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. We're going to go back to Mr. Barrow, and then we'll go to Reverend Dr. Scott.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening. My name is Chris Barrows, and I'm here representing Lynx Light Rail. A little over a month ago, I came and spoke to you petitioning for us to get a 15% raise. Also, we have been around for 10 years, and when they started this organization, in order not to scare people with this massive number of the budget, there was a lot of cuts made. So we only came in at 85% of what our market rate is. And in 10 years, very little has changed since then. We're not even coming close to market rate. There's people that have worked there for 10 years that are not touching the market rate. There was zero reference in the city manager's budget proposal about a light rail raise, and I would like for you to go ahead and reconsider and amend that. We may not have the dangerous job that the police and the firemen do. However, public safety is at the forefront of our job every single day. Let me go ahead and give you some numbers that just happened to us. Before the light rail extension opened, we were running about 80,000 people a week on the light rail. As of last week, we're running 135,000 people on that train every week. That's forecasted to be about 7 million bodies on there in the year. So public safety is at the forefront of ours. And right now, with only paying the 85% of the market rate, we are not able to recruit good help. We are not able to retain the help we have. In that 2 months since we've opened it up, we just went from 80,000 to 135,000 people. Do you know how many employees they hired in my shop? 0. We went from putting 16 trains on the line to now we put 36 out there every day. That means more operators, working 3 shifts. We got more work to do, more maintenance to do because the line just doubled. The trains are coming in just as fast. You added 20 more than we normally had. We can't keep people happy. We can't keep help. And until we start paying money to be, 10 years ago, I understand it because you know what? We didn't really know what we were doing. We were just kicking tires. Well, guess what? We are the market now. If you want to be the world-class city that you say you want to be, well, go ahead, put your money where your mouth is.
Thank you very much. We appreciate that. Reverend Scott.
Good evening,
Good
Madam
evening.
Mayor, ladies and gentlemen of the council, Mr. City Manager and staff. My name is Reverend Dr. Robert Scott. I serve as the senior pastor of the St. Paul Baptist Church, a 118-year-old African-American congregation in the Belmont community with 5,219 disciples from the Charlotte, Mecklenburg, and South Carolina area. Our membership covers at least a 60-mile radius. In the past, the Belmont neighborhood has been a place of high crime, but now we're going through gentrification and there are new housing developments that are springing up all over the place. Houses that were valued at $85,000 to $100,000 less than 10 years ago are now going for $250,000 to $300,000. My predecessor, the Reverend Dr. Greg Moss, along with our Community Development Board, made the decision to stay in our neighborhood and do ministry. Within the construct of Black life, the church has played a vital role in community development. So through our CDC, my predecessor had the vision to be a transformer of community. The church bought vacant lots, and we are now undertaking an $18 million development with 112 units of senior citizen housing and affordable housing around the church, utilizing our current parking space to erect those facilities. The church property is in the center of this development, which is presenting a wonderful opportunity for us to do significant strategic planning and ministry. We've broken ground. Our development is 50% complete, and hopefully we'll be finished with it by the end of this year. This would not have been a working reality without the city of Charlotte coming alongside of us and providing some funds to bring this into fruition. This type of investment in our neighborhood transformed it from dilapidation and blight into spaces of hope and peace. We hope that through your budgeting process, there will be more opportunities for the city to collaborate with other for-profits and nonprofits to help eradicate the affordable housing shortage and give our citizens viable living accommodations. We encourage you as our leaders to do whatever you can to secure additional funds in your budgeting process and make this a working reality. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Marsicano.
Good evening. Thank you for this opportunity to express my great enthusiasm for the proposal under consideration to place $50 million in housing bonds before our citizens in November. For 2 years, a highly diverse task force of citizens organized town hall meetings and discussions on economic opportunity and upward mobility throughout our city. Last year, in this very chamber, the task force presented its Leading on Opportunity recommendations to the community. While it will take years to fully implement the report, grassroots citizen groups and major institutions are embracing the recommendations, and implementation strategies are coming to life. This City Council has the opportunity to bring to life one of our major recommendations under the umbrella strategy of family and child stability, namely $50 million in housing bonds. Thank you for taking that recommendation seriously. I encourage you to give our citizens the opportunity to make this decision to help their neighbors. It is my pledge to help bring the private and philanthropic sectors together to be as bold in their financial support. Finally, I would ask you to consider the lens of your decision as one of equity. I'm a homeowner. Perhaps many of you are homeowners as well. We homeowners who have mortgages and deduct our interest payments from our taxes actually live in government-subsidized housing. In fact, our homeowner government-subsidized housing make up the largest financial housing support system in America. On the other hand, total affordable housing subsidies across America pale in comparison. Let's acknowledge the truth in this and extend our financial privilege to others by placing $50 million in housing bonds before the voters. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. The next group of people I have are Ricky Hall, Bob Morgan, Melissa Gaston, and Righteous Keith.
Thank you, Mayor Lyles, and to council. I'm Ricky Hall, and I'm a current member of the Westside Community Land Trust and a former member of the Housing Trust Fund Board. And I'm here to voice my support for the proposed $50 million Housing Trust Fund allocation or bond for the fall. Charlotte-Mecklenburg is experiencing exponential growth, and at the same time it's experiencing a significant housing boom, particularly in areas that were once affordable surrounding the center city. And yet, lack of access of affordable housing is a crisis that is worsening as a result of increased land values, increased speculative and predatory home buying practices, and increased negative changes in terms of federal housing tax supports and assistance, and tax laws that will further exacerbate our affordable housing supply. With a growing need of 22,000 units of affordable housing, $50 million will allow us to build mixed income communities that allow all residents equal opportunities. But I will say this, that even a $50 million referendum will not solve all of our affordable housing needs. While we're placing significant efforts on new housing development, we must at the same time be proactive by allocating more resources towards land banking and housing preservation. Going forward, the Westside Community Land Trust, in partnership with the City of Charlotte and other affordable housing partners, seeks to expand and preserve housing of affordability in perpetuity by way of the Community Land Trust model. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to speak on support of the proposal.
Thank you. I'm going to apologize. I skipped over James Ford. Mr. Ford, would you mind coming down? And we'll let these folks, and you'll be up next. Thank you. So, Mr. Morgan.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm Bob Morgan, resident of the City of Charlotte and president of the Chamber of Commerce. Here tonight on behalf of the Chamber of Commerce, pleased to have led the City of Charlotte's Capital Investment Program bond campaigns in 2016 and 2014. These bonds have provided hundreds of millions of dollars for transportation, neighborhoods, and housing. We look forward to leading the campaign for voter approval of this year's third installment in our 10-year capital investment program. We specifically endorse and encourage your support for a housing bond of $50 million as recommended by the Leading on Opportunity Task Force. When passed, this city will have made more than $587 million in critical infrastructure needs in our community. This is important business. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Mr. Kit, Righteous Keith?
Yes, ma'am. Hello, my name is Righteous Kit, and I'm a junior at Philippa Berry, and now the president-elect of Charlotte-Mecklenburg's Youth Council. CNYC,
Congratulations.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
CNYC is the Unified Youth Advisory Council for the City of Charlotte, Mecklenburg County, and CMS. Each year through CNYC, our diverse youth work together to learn about and help solve city issues, advise officials, and represent youth voice in decision-making. We're a growing network of young leaders who are working to make Charlotte a winning city of tomorrow. We are the city's city council. This year, youth council, not taking your position.
You know, that would be, you don't want to sit on this side today.
This year, we met with several city council members, the city manager, city staff, and worked with the CMPD to improve police-youth relations, represent the city at events here in Charlotte, Raleigh, and in DC. I only have 2 minutes, a little less now, and so I can't list everything we've accomplished this year. If you have a question, you have any questions about the Youth Council, please reach out at any time. We're proud of the Youth Council we built for the city, and I hope you are too. One thing we've learned is that budget documents can be a bit difficult to read. And while we can't find our funding in the manager's recommended budget, we have been assured.
You can speak with him after.
We've asked.
We have been assured that it is there, so thank you.
Thank you very much.
I'm asking you to please continue to fund Charlotte-Mecklenburg Youth Council partnership with Generation Nation, and I look forward to working with you guys in the future. Thank you.
Thank you.
I just checked, and he lives in District 4, so Greg better watch out.
Greg, you better start worrying. Okay.
Good evening. I'm James E. Ford, co-chair of the Leading on Opportunity Council, but I am here today to speak as a private citizen. Mayor and council members, I vividly remember in 2010 deciding to move my family from my native of Illinois down south. I took my spring break to fly down to Charlotte on assignment from my wife to spend that week finding us an apartment. My instructions were explicit, quote, make sure it's affordable. By that she meant something that a social worker and a school teacher with 2 young children at the time could afford, preferably 2 rooms, 2 to 3 bedrooms in a safe neighborhood, and keep it under $900 a month. I found a beautiful complex in University City that had 1,300 square feet with 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, a dining room area, and a washer and dryer, and the rent was $850. It allowed us to transition into the Queen City and eventually become homeowners ourselves. Now, I sometimes drive past my old apartment, and things have noticeably changed. See, it's under new management. They've changed the name, built a fence around it, and I'm told they put some countertops in there and some new cabinets, and now the rent for that same unit is $1,300. In under 8 years, the rent increased by over 60%. I say this because for many in the city, it's been happening for far too long. Families are being priced out of the city that they dearly love, placed in motels, piling on top of themselves in home rentals, and moving to neighboring counties. We sit on the ruins of the old Brooklyn neighborhood to stand as a testament. The $50 million in housing bonds is a significant down payment, but ultimately it depends on our morals. Budgets are moral documents, and as the phrase goes, you show me your budget, I'll show you your priorities. So we have to ask the question, who are we? What is in our heart? Are we a Queen City, a feudal system where monarchs and lords rule over serfs and peasants condemned to a life of poverty and servitude? Or are we the Queen City, a community with an embarrassment of riches, where opportunity abounds and demographics don't equal destiny, a place where everyone's a part of the royal family? My sincere hope is this queen has heart.
Thank you. Mrs. Gaston.
Good evening, Mayor Lyles and City Council representatives. My name is Melissa Gaston, and I would like to acknowledge my support of the Housing Bond. As an active community leader and co-founder of the North End Community Coalition, I can give a first-hand account of living in communities with mixed affordable housing. Contrary to the misconceptions about individuals who live in affordable housing, they are just like you and I. I grew up in a city, Columbia, Maryland, that was designed to be inclusive not only in race, but in socioeconomic levels. When I moved to Charlotte in 2001, I moved to South Park because it looked very similar to Columbia, Maryland. However, it was missing something. I chose to build a home in the park at Oaklawn, an affordable mixed-income community. My neighbors were individuals moving from Section 8 housing, buying their first homes, a banker, a school teacher, a CNA, and a single father with 2 kids. The rental apartments and senior complex provided rents based on a sliding scale. My neighbors were people of all different socioeconomic levels and races. However, we all had one thing in common: the desire to live in an affordable, safe, diverse, and inclusive community. In 2014, I married my husband, Daryl, and we moved into his home in Druid Hills. We have neighbors who previously experienced homelessness, a retired educator, a fast food worker, a city worker, and the family living in one of our rental homes using a housing choice voucher. Yes, we truly believe in affordable housing. We provide affordable housing in the same neighborhood in which we live. Affordable housing does not mean that I have 3 deadbolt locks or a shotgun by the front door. Living in an affordable housing community means that I have a diverse group of friends and neighbors who have created an inclusive and varied community. It means that I see people for people and not for how much money they make or how much they pay to live in their home. It means that I see my neighbors as visible, vital, and valuable. Please approve this budget to support affordable housing for all areas of Charlotte.
Thank you. Our next speakers are Patricia Segura, I hope that's close enough, Rob Harrington, Linda Mendez, Julie Porter, Darrell Williams. Ms. Segura?
Hi.
Thank you. I hope I was okay, close enough.
Close enough.
Thank you. Okay, not so close. Okay, I got it.
Okay. My name is Patricia Segura, and I'm a senior at West Charlotte High School and co-president of the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Youth Council. CMYC is the Unified Youth Advisory Council for the City of Charlotte, Mecklenburg County, and CMS. 3 years ago, I joined Charlotte-Mecklenburg Youth Council and am now on a lifelong journey of civic engagement. This program is nothing short of amazing. The CMYC is youth-driven, diverse, and active. This year, we met with and advised city, county, and school officials, CMPD, and many others. As young leaders, we represent Charlotte and youth voice in local, state, and national programs. Through your Charlotte-Mecklenburg Youth Council, city, county, and CMS officials have access to youth leaders and youth perspectives on pressing issues while learning how to be civic problem solvers for our schools, neighborhoods, and communities. A diverse and forward-thinking large city needs a 21st century youth council like Charlotte-Mecklenburg Youth Council. You have a great youth council, the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Youth Council. And although this school year may be coming to an end, this lifelong journey of civic engagement bears no teary-eyed goodbyes. Please ensure the city continues its investment in the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Youth Council. The Generation Nation Partnership is a national model. Please do this for the city's next generation of leaders. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Harrington?
Good evening, Mayor Lyles and members of City Council and the Manager's Office. I'm Rob Harrington, Board Chair of the Arts and Science Council. The Arts and Science Council was designated the City of Charlotte's Office of Cultural Resources in 1975 as a partnership including the private sector, the city, and Mecklenburg County. The city's 40-year partnership with the Arts and Science Council is critical to the stability and growth of our cultural community, which serves Charlotte residents and visitors. We appreciate your role in this important public-private partnership. Through our operating support grants, the Arts and Science Council invests in operations of both emerging and of major cultural institutions. In fiscal year 2017, the Arts and Science Council funded programs were delivered at 800 locations on a combined over 19,000 days, enabling more than 3.1 million participant experiences. We're on track to exceed those numbers as of the end of June of this year. Just as the City Council is focused on recommendations of the Opportunity Task Force, so has the Arts and Science Council. In fiscal year 2018, additional funding from the city supported the Arts and Science Council cultural vision projects, including the Arts Empowerment Project, which has brought together youth and law enforcement officers through shared visual arts experiences to improve community-police relationships. The C.N. Jenkins Memorial Presbyterian Church's Global Peace International Festival, a cultural heritage celebration that brought together performers and artists from 11 different countries earlier this month, and Inspire the Fire's one-week summer experience for youth developing their self-confidence, esteem, and skills in voice, drama, stepping, music, and visual arts. The proposed fiscal year 2019 budget reflects a $250,000 decrease in funding for the Arts and Science Council from last year. While we are extremely grateful for the city's long-running support of the Arts and Science Council, without which the Arts and Science Council couldn't be what it is and do for the citizens of Charlotte what it does, a reduction in city funding will result in a decrease in services to the broader community. Please consider restoring the funding to the Arts and Science Council at fiscal year 2017 level for the fiscal year 2018. We thank you in advance for your commitment to Charlotte's cultural community and helping us to build community through culture. And you will hear from at least 2, I think 3 recipients of Arts and Science Council grants.
Thank you. Ms. Mendez?
My name is Linda Mendez, and I'm accompanied by my very patient children, Dura Atella and Aurora Mendez. We are residents of the Alexander Apartments at Bright Walk, formerly historic Double Oaks. These apartment homes are affordable by way of tax credits and the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Housing Partnership. As a former Special Forces military spouse, I was drawn to Charlotte by the city's potential for our family, a fresh new start, a new beginning after my divorce. After leaving our marital home in 2014, a 4-bedroom near the Fort Bragg military base, we were blindsided and initially could only afford a nice little 1-bedroom apartment in Charlotte. For months, we looked for affordable apartments in safe, desirable areas, but the cost would have made it impossible for me to balance work life, spend quality time with my children, or be actively involved in their school. The Alexander, the Stevenson, and the McNeil apartments in Bright Walk have been a saving grace for many working families. Living affordable allows for peace of mind. We have great neighbors who are veterans, school teachers, healthcare workers, and I work at my children's school in Vest Collegiate. We are fortunate to live in the new Bright Walk community, but we don't desire to live in affordable apartments forever and are transitioning to affordable home ownership. However, navigating the sea of predatory lenders, cash buyers, investors, and LLCs buying up all the affordable housing is daunting and killing my family's American dream and our opportunity to build a little wealth for my children. I realize that I don't have the connection needed to navigate affordable home ownership in Charlotte. We have to live with the fact that we are unable to own a home in our own community where I serve as a community resident leader and where my rent nearly lines up with surrounding mortgages. Although the homes are marketed as affordable and are sold as affordable at affordable price points, they don't stay affordable, and we don't have the connections to buy at ground level before the prices skyrocket.
Thank you very much, Ms.
Thank
Mendez.
you.
And your girls are absolutely beautiful.
Thank you.
Ms. Porter.
Thanks for coming, kids.
And son? I'm sorry, I do not have my glasses on tonight. Thank you. Excuse me, young man.
Thank you, Mayor Lyle, City Manager, and City Council. The Housing Partnership is in support of the recommended budget with the $50 million Housing Trust Fund bond. I'm going to tell you a quick story which I think illustrates why it is important. A few weeks prior to Christmas 2017, just this past Christmas, the Housing Partnership was asked if we could help find emergency housing for an extremely low-income senior who was losing her $750 a month apartment, which was being redeveloped along the Central Avenue corridor. Her rent was rising. She was already paying more than 50% of her median income for rent, but she could not afford the new rent. She was also disabled, legally blind. She needed a new place to move immediately that still had access to transportation and services. Because of the emergency nature of the situation, because we knew the senior was at risk of homelessness, and she had never been homeless before, we felt it imperative to help. By sheer luck, we had a unit geared toward a person of 30% of area median income available. We were thrilled when she moved in, but we take calls like this all the time, every single day, and we usually are not able to accommodate the person due to the long waiting list. It was only the emergency nature of the situation that allowed us to help. I use this as an example because it illustrates our need as a community to begin acquiring existing, naturally occurring affordable housing so units are not lost to the market. It also shows the need for more housing production geared to people who are less than 60% of AMI, with a meaningful setback for those who are less than 30% of area median income. I know with an increased housing trust fund bond at the $50 million level, we'll be able to produce more.
Thank you very much. Before I go to the next set of speakers, if you came in late or before these speakers and you haven't spoken and you think that you should have had that chance because you're signed up, just check with the clerk's office and we'll make sure after I get through this list, we'll come back and ask those that we missed to come back and speak. So the next group, Darrell Williams, Mary Kelly, Amy Hahn Nelson, Justin Perry, and Mike Reiser. Is Darrell here? Nope. Mary Kelly, Amy Hahn Nelson, Justin Perry, and Mike Reiser. Hi, yeah, okay. Thank you.
All right, good evening. I'm Mary Kelly. I represent affordable housing advocates at Myers Park United Methodist Church and South Tryon Community United Methodist Church. Thank you, Mayor Lyles and members of City Council for giving me the opportunity to address the City Council regarding the increase of the Housing Trust Fund. I'm here to voice our support for the proposal for $50 million for the Housing Trust Fund as a referendum in the fall bond campaign. Charlotte is experiencing rapid growth of 60 new residents a day, and we will only continue to grow. Lack of access to all types of housing is a crisis in our community, and we need solutions and funding to start addressing the crisis. It's not going away. Increased land values and the lack of varying and creative solutions have resulted in significant barriers to create an adequate housing supply. We have a need of over 30,000 units of affordable housing for residents making 80% of AMI and below. $50 million will allow us to build mixed-income communities across Charlotte that will allow our residents from various professions, including grocery store clerks to police officers to teachers, so that they may have a home of their own. Each of us wants a quality, affordable housing for ourselves and our families. Too many of our children today, our Charlotte children, are not living in stable housing and are not afforded the same opportunity as others to be ready to learn each day. When some of us go home this evening, we will go to a home with lights, food, and a safe place to sleep. Others will not. We appeal to you to approve the proposed referendum of $50 million. Affordable housing is a community responsibility. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Amy Hahn Nelson.
Good evening. My name is Amy Hahn Nelson. I'm a community engaged researcher and serve as co-chair of the Housing Advisory Board Research and Evaluation Committee. I'm actually here on behalf of the Children's Alliance. So we're an organization, it's a collaborative effort of around 40 agencies who serve our county's most vulnerable families. We support this budget item. I would also add that while this $50 million is important and necessary, it will ultimately be insufficient for the crisis that we face. We have 1 in 30 children in Charlotte-Mecklenburg who are experiencing housing instability. That's 5,000 children in our district every day that don't have their basic human need met, that need of shelter. We know that when families are asked to balance competing priorities of transportation, utilities, medical expenses, clothes, shelter, food, sparkly pencils, that's a necessity in elementary school, something has to give, right? And a lot of things give when we have families that are spending over 50% of their income on housing, and that is a lot of families. That is the family of my disabled sister. That is the family of my father's nursing assistant. That is the family of the assistant that teach my children. It's a lot of families, and 80% of them are experiencing extreme cost burden. So I will say thank you for this, and I urge us to continue.
Thank you very much. Mr. Perry.
Good evening. My name is Justin Perry, and I come as the co-chair of the One MEC Steering Committee to support the city manager's proposed budget of $50 million for the Housing Trust Fund. As someone who grew up in Charlotte, I have watched my imperfect hometown grow from a city that once acted on an uncomfortable crossroads to a city that often kicks the can down the road on tough situations. A city that once had an identity as a place that came together to make school desegregation work, to a city whose identity has often looked as though it's for sale to the highest bidder. From a flawed city with tremendous growth potential to a city who has attempted to live off of well-crafted statements and the equity built from past leaders. Today, I'm not simply here to call all of us out. I'm here to call all of you in. The sacrifices of Dorothy Counts, James Ferguson, Stan Brookshire, Julius Chambers, and many others built us a trust fund. And while we have done some good things, we have spent much of the past 2 decades spending that trust fund like a 20-year-old who only lives once. One of the missed opportunities that this community had during the school desegregation era that grew it from budding southern town into booming financial center was not addressing the chance to build diverse price point neighborhoods throughout the community and to create sustainable paths to housing for all of our citizens. I work in the mental health field, and what I say to us is, it's time for us to grow up together. Mom and Dad's trust fund is about to run dry. It's time for the city to decide who we are, who we want to be, and who we value. When I work with my clients, I often tell them that my mouth says what I want my values to be, but my actions say what my values actually are. Similarly, when we state that we have a housing and economic mobility crisis, our task force report tells us what our values should be, but dollars, cents, and voting patterns tell us what our values are. All of you were elected and re-elected because the community saw us at a crisis that decided we need to let go of the status quo. I got one sentence, I'll wrap it up. This is our moment, it's your moment. It's time to protect our most loyal citizens and build a new trust fund for the next generation Charlotteans. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Mr. Reiser.
Thank you. I'm Mike Reiser. I head up community relations for Wells Fargo across the country. And in that capacity, I'm able to see how other cities are responding to the affordable housing crisis. And I'll tell you that housing trust funds, although typically with a dedicated revenue source, is one very critical piece to that puzzle. I've been privileged to be part of many efforts over the years in Charlotte around affordable housing, including a committee back in the 90s chaired by Velva Woolen that counseled Mayor McCrory, and more recently I was on the Housing Advisory Board, and I'm really proud of the work of all of those groups. And I think they created a foundation for where we are today. But I think we've got to take much bolder steps, and I think your proposed $50 million for the Housing Trust Fund is a very good step. I appreciate the courage that many of you sitting up there have demonstrated to get us to this point. In addition, lenders, developers, the school board, the county, and others all need to step up as well. This is a big problem. It's for all of us that live in Charlotte, and we've all got to step up. And if we build mixed income properties, as is contemplated, it'll work for all of us. And finally, I implore you to stay focused on the problem. All of the data points to the fact that the biggest problem is people less than 50% of area median income, folks who make less than $30,000 a year. But if we build mixed income properties, we can include them as well as folks who are in the 40s and the 50s and the 60s, and it won't have any real impacts on any given neighborhood. So we're at a very exciting time. Let's all build on this momentum together. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to ask Charles Bowman, Shantae Evans, Tori Leslie, and Bree Newsom and Amantha Barbie to come join the podium, please.
Well, he's gonna have to wait, I guess. Oh, yeah, she just wants you to know. Oh, okay. I'm gonna go back. Yeah, I'm gonna go back and call all the names that were. I will call them.
Ladies
Mr.
first.
Bowman,
You're good.
please.
Okay. Good evening. My name is Charles Bowman. I'm the market president for Bank of America here in Charlotte. I'm here to add my voice to the support of the proposal in the City Council budget to address, or to begin to address, the lack of sufficient affordable housing in our community. At Bank of America, we believe that responsible growth includes how we support our communities by deploying capital, helping to create jobs, developing communities, fostering economic mobility, supporting our teammates, and addressing society's biggest challenges. Here locally, we support affordable housing through our community development initiatives, and we applaud the City Council's and the City Manager's proposal or bold plan to begin to address the affordable housing gap in Charlotte. We do also acknowledge that this will take both public and private support to address this problem. As Mike said, this is not a problem unique to Charlotte, but across the country. We urge you to approve this proposal for $50 million for the Housing Trust Fund as part of the referendum in the fall bond campaign. I appreciate your attention.
Thank you. Ms. Evans?
Good evening, Mayor Lyles, council members, and city manager. On behalf of the Charlotte Housing Authority CEO, Fulton Meacham, and our Board of Commissioners, I'd like to thank you for this opportunity to speak. I am Shantae Evans, Executive Vice President of Administrative Operations. I am here today to express the Charlotte Housing Authority's support for the proposed $50 million for the Housing Trust Fund as a referendum in the fall bond campaign. Since 1993, the Charlotte Housing Authority has received approximately $59 million from the Housing Trust Fund. These dollars, leveraged with other funding, have enabled us to develop and preserve 4,700 apartment homes. Housing Trust Fund dollars, combined with other funding sources and strong partnerships, enable CHA to develop a housing continuum that accommodates families with diverse incomes. Children who deserve a place to call home, like the 10,000 children that we currently serve. Many of our families are working families that are getting priced out of this beautiful city. Charlotte is expanding and cultivating new opportunities for so many, but not for them. These dollars will help us serve Charlotteans who were born and raised here, educated here, relocated here, but cannot afford to live here. This is their city too. They deserve the right to participate in the city's growth. Let me remind you of who's getting priced out of this city. Bus drivers, police officers, teachers, healthcare workers, seniors on fixed income, and disabled veterans. And what about the mother who escapes domestic violence with her 3 kids and then found out she has cancer? We were there for her, and we need these funds to provide housing opportunities for others like her. As we at the Housing Authority review our waiting list of over 18,000 people, we know that Charlotte is not short of demand for housing that is affordable, but short on supply. This is our time to act. This is where we commit real action with real meaning that changes lives. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Leslie? Oh, Ms. Leslie? Thank you.
Good evening, Madam Mayor, council members, and staff. My name is Tori Leslie, and I'm the Chief Academic Officer for DigiBridge, and I am very grateful to be here as a recipient of the Cultural Vision Grant made possible through the Arts and Science Council. And I'm very happy to share some of that success from the funds that we have raised. And when we talk about vision, which is the anticipating that which will or may be to come, that is what the partnership is setting forth to do for our kindergartners through 8th graders in the Charlotte area. It is our hope that we bridge the digital divide, which is very evident within our city. And we do that through our hashtag STEAM Saturdays programs. Funds like that from the Arts and Science Council and the Cultural Vision Grant help us to create a vision for our students that we serve. Our impact is great through this partnership, and I want to highlight Briarwood Elementary School that has filled 350 seats with our future STEMinists. As we talk about the vision for the city, we need to make sure that all of our children are able to realize that vision when their time comes. When we grow them to be those strong engineers, technicians, mathematicians, we want them to look at Charlotte as a place where they can stay and grow. Thanks to the Arts and Science Council, that funding has helped us to build a wonderful program, and we hope to fill 500 seats. That is not just at this location, but at others. I want to thank you for this consideration. I want to thank you for your funding to the Arts and Science Council, and me and the scholars that I serve every day. Thank you too.
Thank you. Ms. Newsom, and then we'll have Reverend Barbie.
Hi, good evening. My name is Bree Newsom, and I'm here today to urge City Council to allocate $50 million for the Housing Trust Fund, which is desperately needed if the city is in any way serious about providing solutions to the housing crisis in Charlotte and ensuring the city remains accessible to people of all income levels. I'm a local organizer in regular communication with residents who are under threat of being displaced from their homes and who want to remain in their neighborhoods. It's very difficult for people who have to work many hours to afford their rent, for the elderly, and for those with disabilities living on fixed income to show up for the council's various budget and zoning meetings. But I assure you that they care and are paying attention, and I am here to be a voice for them this evening. For decades, the city of Charlotte has been complicit in racial and economic segregation that has forced poor residents, a disproportionate number of whom are Black and Latino, to live in areas of concentrated poverty where they experience a reduced quality of life regarding everything from their designated public school to their ability to access nutritious food and public transportation. Make no mistake that the crisis of affordable housing in Charlotte is a civil rights issue directly connected to the city's history of engaging in discriminatory practices. I would like to remind the Council of the events of September 2016, when the city made headlines around the nation following the police killing of Keith Lamont Scott. These events represented a boiling over of racial and economic tensions that exist in the city due to the city's continued failure to adequately address and make reparation for the ongoing effects of racism and segregation in Charlotte. A child living in Charlotte should be able to thrive here regardless of their zip code. The city claims to be addressing issues of poverty and economic mobility, but that is not possible if the city is allowing its poor residents to be pushed outside the city limits where they cannot benefit from the economic growth that is occurring in the city, including improvements to transportation. I agree with city leaders who recognize that Charlotte has an opportunity to emerge as a model for cities around the nation who are also seeking solutions to issues of racism and poverty 50 years after the assassination of Martin Luther King Jr. Allocating $50 million to the Housing Trust Fund is an essential step in this effort, and I urge the Council to act in favor of civil rights, justice, and equity. Thank you.
Thank you. Reverend Barbie, welcome.
Good evening, Mayor Lyles, City Council. Thank you for allowing us to have this time with you tonight. I am here in support of the $50 million trust fund proposal. I am a resident of Charlotte. I have always been a resident of Charlotte. I am a proud graduate of West Charlotte, and I live in West Charlotte, and I work in West Charlotte, all by choice. My mother still lives in the house in which I was raised. She retired after 30 years of giving service as a teacher at Charlotte-Mecklenburg School System. My father retired as an educator as well after 36 years of service. If my mother were to sell that house she lives in right now, she'd sell it for a heck of a lot more than they paid for it. But I promise you she would have nowhere to go on her salary because she still lives off of a teacher's salary. That is unheard of in a city like this. It says in many of our texts, one way or the other, our religious texts, and in my own tradition, it says, "What you have done to the least of these, you have done to me." Now, my question becomes, are we able to do that in good faith, in good conscience? If you are able to vote against this, I and many others will deeply question exactly where your moral compass points. We cannot continue to ignore our minimum wage employees, our teachers, our policemen, and the people which truly keep our city going. Many of you ran for office on this very issue. If you vote against this tonight, I truly hope that your car is not your bed. I truly hope that when you go home, your lights will come on. I truly hope that your children will be able to go to school with no shame, because many cannot, because of the situation we have put them in, because they cannot afford a place to live. Thank you.
Thank you. Ann Lambert, Diana Cook, Pete Huberger, and Ed Bazell. If you would come down. Miss Lambert. Ah, there you are. Okay.
Hello. I'm here tonight as an advocate for Charlotte's professional theater artists and in support of the City of Charlotte's financial support for the Arts and Science Council. My name is Ann Lambert, and I'm a theater actor, director, and producer. Under the banner Charlotte's Off-Broadway, I and my artistic collaborators produce projects and entertain Charlotte audiences with provocative, innovative, contemporary work that explores popular culture, marriage, adult friendships, career successes and failures, and art. Our current production is Barbecue Apocalypse, now playing through May 26th at the Warehouse Performing Arts Center in Cornelius, North Carolina. If you weren't already aware that there is a 55-seat black box theater venue in Cornelius around the corner from the Tender's Chicken restaurant, I think you need to get out more and see more professional theater being produced locally in your community. Charlotte's Off-Broadway believes Charlotte needs and deserves more homegrown professional theater. Since the demise of the Charlotte Repertory Theater in 2005 and Carolina Actors Studio Theater in 2014, Charlotte's community of homegrown professional theater for adult audiences continues to flounder. Charlotte is one of the largest American cities without a professional LORT Equity Theater Company. Resourced, starved independent theaters, many female-led, are rehearsing in borrowed spaces and self-funding their intermittent productions, paying artists subsistence stipends, and watching the most talented actors, directors, and designers depart for other cities. Charlotte deserves more homegrown professional theater. I encourage the City of Charlotte to support this goal by directing increased funds to professional theater through designated contributions to the ASC and to other charitable organizations. Please work with these institutions to encourage them to give more funds to theater and to theater artists, and to work with us to find creative ways to provide those funds directly to Charlotte artists, particularly artists like me producing professionally. We also need your help to access more affordable venue space. This is the #1 challenge facing independent theater producers in Charlotte, hence the Cornelius venue for my current show. I can't afford to produce in Charlotte. I welcome a conversation with you on how local producers, directors, actors, and theater artists can work with people like me.
Thank you very much. Ms. Cook.
Good evening. I'm here on behalf of the American Heart Association, and You're the Cure that lobbies for heart and stroke. We all want and deserve to live in safe, healthy communities. Walking and biking projects make communities and neighborhoods more livable by ensuring all people can get safely to where they need to go: work, school, the library, grocery stores, or parks. They also help people feel more connected to their neighbors, which improves quality of life. We can help make it safe for people to share the road with cars and trucks, sidewalks that connect to parks, public transportation, and schools, roads that include designated and protected bike lanes, and streets that accommodate all people can help us safely be active and improve our quality of life. Studies show that people in walkable neighborhoods generally get about 35 to 45 more minutes of moderate, intensive physical activity a week and are less likely to be overweight or obese than those in low walkability neighborhoods. Investing in a more active Charlotte will help us all be healthier. Please support the city's manager's proposal to fully fund Charlotte's bicycle, pedestrian, and Vision Zero programs. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Huberger?
I'm Pete Huberger, and I'm representing the North End Partners, or NEP, in support of the funding that the Arts and Science Council receives from the City of Charlotte. In 2017, CMPD Metro Division asked officers to come up with possible community projects. Officer Charlissa Reiber thought a new mural could bring a much-needed sense of color and light to the underpass at 16th and North Tryon Streets. Unfortunately, this is a spot where officers encounter prostitution and drug use. Officer Reiber approached NEP. That meeting led to artists Sam Guzzi and Lane Morris from the artistic group Brand the Moth, volunteers from NEP, and guests of the nearby Men's Shelter of Charlotte, joining with CMPD officers to paint a mural along the north side of the underpass this last August. NEP found that the mural beautified the corridor and brought people from many different walks of life together to work on the project. We didn't have the funds to paint both sides of the underpass. NEP was awarded a $5,000 ASC Cultural Vision grant to finish the mural. ASC helps nonprofit organizations and creative individuals pursue initiatives that build community or demonstrate relevant cultural expression. The grant will be matched by additional donations from NEP businesses and residents who want to see this project completed. The contributed funds will pay for paint and supplies and enable the artists and residents from the men's shelter to be paid a modest stipend. The NEP team began work on the mural this past Saturday and will be painting the underpass over the next 6 weeks. We need volunteers to paint on Saturdays through May and June. The men's shelter has set up a sign-up genius for volunteers to select the day that they want to work. And we also invite donations of cash to help match the ASC grant. Finally, we want to thank the City of Charlotte for supporting the ASC's programs. Charlotte values the work of our local artists, and that means creating more opportunities for artists to receive compensation for their work.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Basil?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you very much, Mayor Lyles, members of council. I'm Ed Basil. I am a third-generation Charlottean, and I was part of the things that happened here in the 1970s when we became a national model, and I think it's time for us to achieve that again. I'm a member of the Charlotte Regional Realtors Association Board of Directors, and also I sit on the non-profit, the charitable arm, the Housing Opportunity Foundation. So I'm here today on behalf of 10,000 realtors who live in Charlotte, work in Charlotte, sell houses in Charlotte, and ask you to support the $50 million in the affordable housing bonds. As realtors, we're a lot of times on the forefront. Obviously, we're all over the board, but we recognize the importance that stable housing plays in promoting upward economic mobility, as well as growing challenge that many of our neighbors face in and around the Charlotte area. The historic investment that the manager has recommended in his budget won't completely solve our problems, but it's a huge step towards providing the funds necessary for the city to start investing in new and rehabilitated housing for our neighbors who are most in need of assistance. Our association is looking forward to putting our energy and resources into this year's bond campaign, and we're optimistic voters who will support important investment in affordable housing. We thank you for your commitment to this. You've already shown that it's a critical issue, and we ask you to approve the budget with the bond amount recommended by the manager, unless you want to increase it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I like that option. Okay. All right, so I am going to go back to the folks that I did not have as being here, and I'm going to start at the beginning. Bernard Williams, Stephanie Campbell, let's see, Darrell Williams, if you would come down. So Bernard Williams, Stephanie Campbell, and Darrell Williams. Okay, Mr. Williams?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank
This
you.
is my first time down to city council, so trying to show my boys, you know, how it is, and I just want to start off.
This is a good time to learn for them. You have to have a lot of patience.
Oh, yeah. I just want to say good evening, Madam Mayor, councilmen. I'm a city worker. I'm a Charlotte city worker. And I just want to say that, you know, over the years that I done seen this city start growing. I probably see it more than what y'all have. You know, you got, used to be like woods and stuff, now there are houses everywhere. And I like to say that, you know, we need help, we need funding. You know, the insurance is going up. You know, it's hard to live, you know. For my situation, you know, I got heart failure. I got to decide if I'm gonna put food on the table or get my medicine. You know what I'm saying? So I just want to say that it's hard out here. You know, we work out here 7 days a week. You know, and sometimes, you know, and all times of the night. You know, We need that support. We need the help. We just like the police and fire. We very important. Without us, everything was shut down. The firefighters couldn't do their, go to the fire hydrants and put out fires. We very important.
That's right.
Just saying, what if y'all had to go home, cut on the faucet, no water coming out? You can't go and flush the toilets. What y'all gonna do? Huh? What are you gonna do? So I'm gonna steal the thing from the Ghostbusters, but who you gonna call? So I'm just I'm finna get on out of here, but I just want to let you know that we are very important, and I think we are the heartbeat of this city. We keep this city grounded. We keep this city on float.
Thank you, and we do understand that. Miss Campbell, okay, Mr. Williams. I'm sorry, Miss Campbell?
Oh, the other Williams.
No, the other Williams, I'm sorry. I don't know, he may not be able to top your speech, though. He's not going to talk about turning the water off, so.
I'll tell you what, after my other brother Williams, I don't think I need to say anything. Good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, City Council, and staff. Thank you for your commitment to this community, and thank you for this opportunity to share some brief remarks regarding affordable housing. My name is Darrell Williams. I'm a longtime Charlotte resident and architect and founding partner of Neighboring Concepts and a former member of the Board of County Commissioners. I've been living in Charlotte now for over 35 years, and my love for this city is as strong as it's ever been. 3 of my sons were raised here, all graduating from CMS schools and now raising their kids here. In my personal and professional life, I have been and continue to be committed to doing all that I can to make Charlotte a great place for all of us. I believe that every resident, no matter what their income, has the opportunity, has the right to enjoy quality, well-built housing. I also believe that our neighbors in Charlotte, who happens to be low-income wage earners, deserve to enjoy housing stability. Housing stability and housing security impacts economic mobility, and those in our community who are low-wage earners deserve the opportunity to increase their mobility without compromising their housing situation. For this to happen, Charlotte needs many things. We need good-paying jobs, good living wages. We need world-class infrastructure, safe neighborhoods, and transit options. We need quality education for all of our children, and we need more diversity in our schools and neighborhoods, and we need more affordable housing. In my personal and professional life, I've been led by a desire to influence positive change within social and physically challenged communities like the communities where I grew up in Louisiana, and those that exist all over the country, and Charlotte is no exception. Coincidentally, I just arrived off the plane back from Louisiana visiting my mother and other family members for Mother's Day. When I see the low-wage earners here in Charlotte, generally good, hard-working people, I see my family.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for what
Appreciate
you do,
it.
and I really urge you to support the affordable housing bonds.
Thank you. Victoria Limley and Gary Crump. Wait a minute, I got more. Okay, I got more. And then Kalia Martin, Charles Carter, Thomas Young, and Victor Howard. So we'll start with Ms. Limley. Thank you.
Hello, and thank you for having me this evening. My name is Victoria Lemley, and I am representing LAWA, or Latin Americans Working for Achievement. I am also a Charlotte native and a second-generation Latin American immigrant. LAWA is a small nonprofit serving the Latino community in Charlotte since 1992. We work to advance the educational access and opportunities for Latinos in the Charlotte community. One of LAWA's major programs, Padres y Padrinos, or Parents and Godparents, focuses on elementary youth. A component of PYP addresses holistic health. This program is called Dancing for Diversity, which celebrates Latino culture through music and dance. Both Latino and non-Latino youth participate in professional dance instruction, learning basic choreography and the history of Latin genres. After 15 weeks of instruction, our partner elementary schools host recitals to celebrate youth and culture. LAWA collects and analyzes data to make an intentional impact on students' behavior, self-esteem, cultural awareness, and integration. Given the current political climate, the support is now more crucial than ever. The Arts and Science Council awarded LAWA with a Cultural Vision Grant in 2018, making this necessary work possible. On behalf of LAWA, I encourage you to support the Arts and Science Council. Additionally, the Dancing for Diversity recital is this Thursday at Albemarle Road Elementary at 4:30 p.m., and everyone is invited to attend.
Thank you.
There will be empanadas.
Thank you very much. Mr. Crump? Thank you. Mr. Crump?
Oh, Victor
Yes.
Howard. I'm actually Victor Howard.
I'm sorry. Mr. Crump, is he here? Okay, so you are Mr. Martin?
Nope. Victor Howard.
Victor Howard.
Yes.
Go right ahead, Mr.
Hi,
Howard.
yes. Good evening, everybody. This is my first time actually coming to this thing, so bear with me. I'm speaking from the heart. Basically, I just want to bring out some information that I've gotten a chance to get to. About 3 weeks ago, a wealth report came out about, basically, they put a report out with Native Black descendants of slaves, wealth gap between whites. Right now, the net worth of Native Black descendants of slaves without the car or family car is $1,700. Compared to whites, it's $125,000. So I just wanted to put it out there that, you know, I hear tonight about the affordable homes, which would be great for the city. But along with those affordable homes that's being built, hopefully we can have some Native Black workers, you know, being a part of that and not be just, you know, one group actually doing it. Another thing I would like to everybody to read is called The Color Law. And it basically demonstrates exactly what happened. If nobody knows what happened. That's all I have to say, basically, but I just wanted to bring everybody awareness about that. That's all.
That is a good book. Thank you, Mr. Howard. All right, so Mr. Crump?
Carter.
Carter.
Solid waste.
Mr. Crump is not here? Okay, so Mr. Carter, thank you.
Thank you for hearing my voice tonight. I work at the sanitation department. I heard the fire, I heard the police talk about their jobs. I love to sit across the table and share checks with them because I'm not here asking for money. I'm here asking for respect. It's time for y'all to guard up and put your dukes up and start fighting for us because we touch every home every day in this city. I've been in Charlotte since 2000. I have never called the police. I called the fire department one time because my son that suffered from diabetes had an episode, and they came. They was on time and they was prompt, but I'm there every week, and I pick up probably everybody around that podium, or whatever you call it, trash every week. We go up, I dare you to go up. You want to talk about hazard at work? Go up to the landfill, I invite you. Put some hard hats on and go up there and see what we go through every day. You know, we are under the same umbrella that every city worker is, but we don't get respected as such. And it's time for this group of people, this council, distinguished men and distinguished women, to stand up for us for a change. We ain't asked for 15 cents, but we deserve more than that, if you ask what I say, because you're talking about $15, affordable health care and affordable homes. My colleagues can't even afford to stay here for real. You know, I mean, these people that coming up here are doctors and lawyers and CEOs. We the garbage people that pick up everybody trash, and y'all don't respect us, and it's time that y'all do so. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ms. Martin. Ms. Martin.
Good evening. My name is Kalia Martin, and I come here tonight to encourage you all to fully fund the $50 million that has been requested by the community in order to help alleviate our current housing crisis. I grew up in Charlotte and graduated from the one and only Harry P. Harding University High School. I left the area after I graduated to further my education, and last year I was excited to return to the city that had given me so much and pour back into it. Within 3 months, I realized that I couldn't afford to live in the city without multiple roommates, a long commute, and allocating much more than 30% of my income towards housing. I'm a millennial who grew up being taught that if I went to school, worked hard, and got a job, I could obtain the American dream. Now, forgive me if I misunderstood the message, but I don't think that the dream entailed me getting a master's degree, a full-time job, and still having to live at home because rent is too expensive. I absolutely love my job, and I'm fortunate to wake up every morning and be excited about the work that I would do today. I'm a social worker who works with high school students to teach the importance of advocacy and civic engagement. I shop and eat locally. This is my home, and I am a human being. I deserve to live in housing that is safe and affordable. I share my story to illustrate the fact that Charlotte has a major decision to make. We can either be yet another city that pushes out its public service providers, natives, and working class citizens, or we can set the national standard on how to create a beautiful and affordable city for all of its residents. I would be beyond proud if I could say that Charlotte has decided to break the national trend of displacing residents in order to increase the profits for a handful of people and instead prioritize communities and more equitable outcomes for all. I ask you all tonight, do you want to be remembered as the group who dared to set a new national trend for affordable housing, or the group that squandered the last chance for Charlotte to be on the inclusive side for all of its citizens? Thank you.
Thank you very much. So is there anyone else, Madam Clerk, that has signed up to speak?
I don't think so.
Okay. Then that concludes our public hearing on the, I'm sorry, there is someone that has signed up?
You signed up? Young. Oh, Thomas, he's the number 46, Thomas Young.
Okay,
Oh, Thomas
sorry.
Young. Sorry, thank you.
Yes, please come down. Mr. Young. You get to wrap it up for us.
Oh, yeah.
Not shy about it, huh?
I'd like to thank y'all what y'all do for us. And I'm telling you, some of my co-workers didn't come down tonight. They tired. Every day we be out there on these standing routes every morning. We have routes, standing routes every morning. We need more manpower and lady power. We need more trucks on these routes. Garbage, same way. They have standing routes every day too. They need more trucks on these routes. You're killing these guys and women out here every day out here doing this stuff. Then you got people sitting out late, you're always behind you, landscapers sitting out stuff behind you on the routes. Then you got to turn around, you get a ticket and come to your office, Mayor, and city manager come to your office. We have to go back out there and get it. I don't think it's fair.
I agree with that.
I don't think it's fair at all. And we also got AVLs on them trucks and saying we've been doing our job. And another thing I want to say to you, and what they need to do is audit this yard waste, illegal yard waste for we picking up out here. They need to audit that stuff too. I don't think it's right we pick up all these limbs, big piles and stuff they put out here, illegal piles and stuff we be putting out here. I don't think it's right. I don't think it's right at all. I'm not saying that I don't want to do my job. But I go out the limb and do whatever they tell me to do. I do it every day. Once I put my uniform on, wear the crown, I'm proud. I'm proud of where I'm working at.
Thank you.
And the guys and co-workers, you know, they proud to do their job too. But we need more manpower.
Thank you
and
very
lady
much.
power out there.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Mr. Manager, we do get issues around the workforce having to go back and pick up things, and we've talked about that before. I think we need to follow up on that because, you know, I think we've heard it, and the guys and ladies say it. I'm sorry. All right. Yes, sir.
They need to limit for us the time of being out there during the day. It's hot. We trying to get this stuff up and go home like everybody else so we can visit our parents.
Thank you. All right, let's make sure our hot weather policies are in place this summer. Thank you very much. So with that, I don't believe we have.
Second.
Thank you so much. We have a motion to close. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
And that marks the end of the public hearing. Thank you for all of you that stayed and listened and contributed. We really appreciate it. We know that while we sit here at this dais, it's really about you, and we appreciate you coming and helping us make these decisions. So we have one more item on the agenda before I'd like to go back to our meeting, the discussion points that we were having upstairs on how to proceed on Wednesday, if we can. But let's go. We have one more item. The manager has suggested that we do Memorial Stadium at our next available time, even maybe carve out some time on Wednesday. On Wednesday. So we'll do that on Wednesday as well. And then the last item that we have on our agenda is, hold on, the adoption of the fiscal year 2019 annual action plan for housing and community developments. Do we have any items, people to speak on this item? On this item? With that, so do I have a motion to approve? I have a
Second.
motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
So with that, that completes our business agenda for tonight. And before we go to mayor and council topics, I think that when I brought up the meeting schedule and recommendations, I think Councilmember Bakari suggested where I had said each council member will have the opportunity to speak individually on any item in the budget. I think he said it might be good to call that an opening statement, that we have everyone have the ability to make an opening statement. But if you can pull that up, the procedure would be that the council will meet on May 16th from 1 to 5:30 p.m. Council can submit questions and requests for additional information to the city manager for this meeting. We'd like to have it by Tuesday at 2 o'clock. Of course, we all know that if you call the manager and you have something after 2 o'clock, he's going to try to make it happen. Council then would ask for recommendations, and I think that, again, we had a suggestion by Councilmember Bakari that we try to get, if there's a mass around any particular idea that we need a presentation or more explanation on, that we try to have at least 4 to 5 people that need that. Otherwise, we would schedule it, if it's one, we'd schedule a one-on-one with the manager to do that, or someone on the staff. And then having each council member to have an opening statement individually on the budget, anything in the budget. And staff during that presentation would make a note of things that you are suggesting. It could be about the revenue side, the expenditure, the program, anything that you bring up, fees, just those are examples. And at the end of the meeting, after everyone has had a dialogue, and I suggest we start probably about 5 o'clock to get this done, we would vote on those things that we would like to see carry forward to the next meeting, which is for the staff to reply, which is Wednesday, May the 30th from noon to 5 p.m. And we would just continue the discussion. The manager would review, bring back information that we've asked for. Council continues the discussion and the process on anything that comes up. And then if they're ready to take any direction, we do. If not, we just continue to do preliminary votes. And we would move to Monday, June the 4th from 5 to 10 p.m. Again, the manager reviews the data, the information, and brings it back. But at that point, we would talk about taking those preliminary votes so that the staff could prepare the budget on June the 11th for council's adoption. We also talked about our process of 5 votes to get the staff to move forward to refine any suggestions. And we would try to get that information to you instead of it all coming at one time, roll it out so that people could get it. And I would like to suggest, do you want to get that by email so that it can move more quickly? Ordinarily, we wait till Thursday and a packet comes. But if they're rolling it out, you could do something on a more quickly. It could be out by email as it comes up and complete it. And then it would take 6 votes to include any amendment to the ordinance that would be presented for adoption. So with that, I'd like to ask for any suggestions or changes that you'd like to make as we proceed in the discussion. Anyone have any ideas? Mayor Pro Tem.
Just a question. You said that we would start for the adds and deletes at 5. Is that
if anyone had an amendment that they would suggest for the staff to do the fleshing out of what it would mean, how it would be implemented, comments on it, it would take 5. That's what we've been doing.
I'm sorry, I
in the
thought,
past.
okay, I didn't understand.
Okay. Any other comments or suggestions? Mr. Bakari?
Just one further tweak or recommendation. With the opening statements, I think what one of the reasons that would be really good is that we don't have to get everything we want to say completely out, but it'll make us all really focus in on what are the 3, 4, 6 specific things that we're kind of presenting in a very quick way. And my suggestion might be that rather than going around and letting each person kind of do opening statements, we almost take it one at a time, where I get to lay out 3 or 4 things. These are my things in 5 minutes, this is what I want, and then we don't move on to the next person until we've had the dialogue and we've seen either 5 people raise their hand on Tark's item number 1 and say, yeah, I'd be interested in exploring that, and it gets handed to the manager, or there's no one in support and it's crickets, and all of a sudden that one's off the table. So that way we don't have to remember at the end what everyone said. We can one at a time kind of go through and have that dialogue, and I think we'll end up knocking some items off of other people's lists in our dialogue about it.
So kind of a check-in at the end of everyone's opening statement and say, hey, does anybody see anything here that
that you could support?
That you would support. Mr. Driggs?
I recognize the value of that. I will just point out to you that experience has shown that you'll get about halfway through this group, and the discussion that's ignited by the opening statements of a few of us will take up the entire time. So I really think we need to protect a certain amount of time and make sure everybody gets a chance to say something. People can take notes, and then we can also get the benefit of everybody's. So I understand your point, but I just think procedurally would be better to let everybody speak.
That point, which is very good.
And I think one of the things the staff has been really good at this to say, you know, if you say, I want to add, you know, donuts for breakfast every morning, that everybody, they could check it. You know, 6 people said that. So that kind of gives you a visual clue.
Good point.
And we could do it visually instead of having a response. Yeah. And you could certainly say, well, you know, I think that's a brilliant idea, whatever Ms. Ajmira said, and that would be enough in your statement. I want this, and I wasn't trying to overstructure it. What I was really trying to do was structure it enough that everybody had a chance to participate. I think that's really important in this way. I know that this is a significant statement for all of us, and I know that there's not necessarily agreement on some of the ways we've gotten here, but we're here. And we have a responsibility to do this in a way that I think respects each other and respects the people that took the time to come at 5:30 to 8:35 to give us feedback on it. And I'm sure there are a lot more that you're getting by email and other, I really believe that we represent the community's position in this area, and so it's good to do that. So do I have other suggestions, Mr. Driggs?
Madam Mayor, I just wanted to clarify. I've made clear that I think where we are right now, we need to have a bigger conversation than we typically do at this point. I'm in agreement with your proposal, okay? So I think we should do this the way you say. And it's just a more general observation. There should have been a time when we could talk about the amount of our commitment to affordable housing or the police solution before we got this far down the road, when really it's kind of hard. If we come back to the manager and say, you know what, you really need to find 10% for those officers, that's going to be a big ask. I don't think you could easily accommodate that, because you've done a lot to get where we are right now. So that was the point of my comment, but I'm okay with the procedure you suggest.
Thank you. Mr. Eggleston?
I'm also fine with the procedures as you've laid out. What I would ask everybody, in respect of everybody's time, I had the opportunity this morning, and I know that he's willing to do this with anybody, to sit down with the manager and ask some of my clarifying questions, so that one of our budget meetings does not turn into everyone asking questions so they individually understand something that maybe they didn't understand ahead of time. I think these meetings need to be about our priorities, our opinions on the budget. It doesn't need to be a chance for the things, probably 5 of the 8 questions I asked him this morning were ones that would have been a waste of y'all's time if they're things you already understood. and they were clarified for me. So I hope those meetings don't turn into
Please think about that.
tutorials.
And many, I think he's got a ton of people that you could just walk into the office. I mean, and Phil and Sabrina and the manager as well, just walk in. Kim's been doing this forever. I mean, really. So I think if there's just a question, if you don't have time to actually submit it and you're in the building, just stop and ask, and they'll get it, they'll compile it. I mean, I think that will just work for us if we can do that. That's a great point, Mr. Eggleston. Okay. Mr. Phipps?
Yeah, I do think, in retrospect and looking, just reflecting on the 3 workshops that we did have, and it's probably going to be part of the, I guess, the postmortem analysis of how this whole budget process worked. I guess I was somewhat disappointed that within those 3 budget workshops that maybe I mean, it's hard to, it seems like it's hard at times to focus on what our true end game is in terms of what we need to get done. I think we still have a tendency to have a lot of discussion, and that's why I thought maybe a 4th workshop would have been good to schedule. I mean, last year we had 4. So I would hope that we would go into Wednesday's meeting with a more focused objective on what we want to do, and try to get as many clarifying questions answered as possible beforehand. We did have a retreat of, I don't know how many hours that retreat was that day. I mean, we had that retreat, and when you talk about the amount of affordable housing funds, we had several workshops, committee meetings. I don't know, where was the projected idea of what we wanted to see as an amount? I mean, at some point you could just meet till the cows come home. I mean, what you gonna do? I mean, it's frustrating. So I would hope
don't be frustrated on Wednesday. Let's come in with open with new eyes.
So I hope we could concentrate on, just what, okay, we got the manager's proposals. What do we think they should be and move forward, It
reminds me there are 2 things that I think we ought to really look at and remind ourselves of in this conversation. One is that the manager has a responsibility to make his recommendations. That's a professional responsibility and accountability he has, as well as his defined role in our system of government that we have. So while he may not get it everybody or get it right, but he has a responsibility that if he thinks it is the right professional approach, and that's what you want in a manager, someone that's going to say to you, well, that may be difficult, it may be hard, but that's my responsibility, and then it's ours to say. So we do have that ability to make those changes, and if we feel strongly about something, we have that responsibility to tackle it. And then the other thing that I've been a little bit concerned about is that, and I've heard this, that it didn't go to committee. Well, the committee referrals are supposed to be made based upon the council saying, well, this is the topic, this is the issue, and it should go to committee in this respect. We are not a congressional body like the federal government is. We don't start out with, well, committees. The committee system, while informal and unwritten, has been because it's supposed to come to this group, and there's supposed to be a specific effort by a smaller group to work on this. So I think that we've tried really hard to say, bring us a strategy for this, bring us a plan for something that we didn't have a plan for. But I would really encourage us to remember those first Mondays are for us to talk, and we should be talking about that more. Those are the things, that is the time to actually try to get more of that done, and so that if it gets to a place that it bogs down here, then you can say, well, why is it bogging down, or why aren't we able to move it, and what are the questions that we need to answer? So I would say, and I've said this to several people, we've had 5 months and we've only had 2 policy items on this agenda. And we have at least 7 or 8 referrals in committee. and policy things come out of committee when asked to be there. So we are either not asking enough or not defining enough and trying to figure out how it works better. So I know that you get the reports every month, and I haven't had a chance to read the latest one, but I would encourage us to be really much more upfront and not just assume that it has to go to committee, because it has to go to committee when we decide that it's not viable for us to handle it as a group, as a council. So with that, Ms. Mayfield?
Mayor, clarifying question for you based on what we're saying our next steps are. So are we saying that individuals are going to submit whatever questions they have, and then what's going to be the response from the manager's office? And I guess really the question is for you, Mr. Manager. You're then going to be prepared on Wednesday to present the response to all the questions?
Yes.
Based on people individually asking questions?
And to what this council has said in the past, what we're trying to do is get all the information and then share all the answers with the entire council.
Mr. Winston?
There a couple things that I've heard tonight in this discussion right here, something Mr. Driggs said, something Mr. Phipps said, something several of us have alluded to, and something I spoke about literally like the first meeting. We have to change the way we do things. You know, we can't continue to try to fit, you know, this council and the way we go about asking questions and getting information and dealing with information with the status quo of the way we're doing things. We keep like beating around the bush about how do we get shared information. This is like the same conversation that we had in the first couple weeks. We have to really look at the way we're structured ourselves, how our meetings are scheduled, who we have, so that we can have folks that are talking about different topics of conversation at the same time when we're not there, and that represent us. So we can continue to have this conversation and add another meeting and email questions, but when it comes down to it, we're trying to fit today's needs of government into something that might have worked many years ago, and it's time to change that up.
Ms. Ajmira?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to echo my colleague, Mr. Winston's point. I think we ought to look at how can we do things more effectively. Committee is only one avenue of getting things done. If we keep pushing everything through committee, we are not going to be efficient. I'll give you a prime example. I think today we made a decision on circular economy. If we had to go through that item through committee, then it would have taken. We have clean energy there. We have a war on litter. We have so many other items lined up. We cannot push everything through a committee, otherwise it's just going to delay what we owe to our residents. I think we gotta look at more creative way to do things more effectively. And I appreciate our city manager's leadership on some of these issues where we can get things done more efficiently.
So before we go council topics, because I know we can, is this on this subject, Mr. Eggleston?
I won't belabor the point much because Ms. Ajmira made most of it for me, but I was going to differentiate between the things that are in committee, like stormwater, which is hundreds of millions of dollars, and the UDO, which is 3 or 4 or 5 year process. And that, to me, that's the kind of work that should be in committee. If we're referring $500,000 projects to committee, if we seem bogged down now, $500,000 projects in committee is going to make this pale in comparison.
So I want to go. All right, so let me, before we go on and just continue the general conversation, I think I heard that we're okay with the way we're going to conduct business over the next couple of, Mr. Manager?
So Mayor, before you go to council topics, I did have one item under the manager's report that John Lewis was going to pop up for just 2 minutes to.
Oh, okay, I am so sorry, I did not know. Oh.
That's fine, that's fine.
Of course it's fine. We need to get the work done first. I thought I did not know. I thought once we didn't do the stadium, we didn't have another topic. Mr. Lewis, thank you for joining us.
And Mayor, members of council, before Mr. Lewis.
Yeah, we will. I'm sorry, just
And before Mr. Lewis begins, just had one thing I'd like to share with council. I had a message from the county manager last week that Pineville would like to remain, would like for CMPD to continue to police their unincorporated area. Wow. I had a conversation with the town manager, Ryan Spitzer, this afternoon, and he agrees. There are things to be worked out. Kim Eagle is my lead on that, but I confirmed today that Pineville would like to stay, remain having CMPD police the unincorporated area.
Right.
Okay.
So you will have a team working on that, and we'll
Yes.
have some agreement that comes back to us in some time.
Before July 1.
Before July 1, because they'll
Yes.
have to have it in their budget.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Lewis?
Thank you, Mayor, members of council, Mr. Manager. I'm here this evening to provide you a very brief update on the status of the Charlotte Gateway Station project. CATS has been before you on several occasions to get your consent on multiple agreements required to move this project forward. Agreements between CATS and the Federal Railroad Administration, North Carolina Department of Transportation, and Norfolk Southern Railroad. As you know, this project has been divided into 2 phases. Phase 1 includes 5 new bridges at West 4th Street, Trade Street, 5th Street, 6th Street, and the PNN Greenway. The project also includes 2 2,000-foot-long station tracks, passenger boarding platform and canopy foundations, and signals governing track operations. The first phase of the project is fully funded. It has been advertised by North Carolina DOT, and bid opening will occur tomorrow, May 15th. We expect construction to begin sometime in July, and that first phase to be completed sometime during summer or fall 2022, depending upon the schedule for the winner of tomorrow's bid opening. Concurrently, staff has been working diligently on phase 2 of the project, which will include solicitation and selection of a private development partner who will deliver the actual train station and associated transit-oriented development. I will be back before you at your May 30th meeting, hopefully, to provide more detail on phase 2 activities, including our private development industry forum, which is currently scheduled for June 26. Just wanted to give you that brief update since tomorrow's bid opening will occur, and there will be a public announcement of phase 1 portions of the project, and thank you for your time this evening.
All right, any questions? That is actually good news. I know it's going to be a huge infrastructure project in a major section of our downtown, and a lot's going to be going on, and it's going to take
4 years.
4 years.
It will take a little over 3.5.
But you know, progress is going to be progress. Progress sometimes takes time, so congratulations on it. Mr. Winston.
I have a question about that timeline. Why would it take 4 years to build a train station, one phase of a train station? Why can that not be accelerated?
Because we are building adjacent to an operating freight rail corridor. It takes a lot more time than if we were building in our own separated right-of-way.
All right. So we're going back to the discussion on the budget process. Mr. Driggs.
I just want to point out in response to a number of things that were said about, hey, it's $500,000, we don't have time for this. If you want to give the manager individual authority for $500,000, you go ahead and give it to him, okay? But as long as we all have to sit here and raise our hand or not, we each need to be briefed on the things that come up. And you find out that many of the things that we have to think about are actually not quite as simple as they look. They deserve a discussion. They deserve an opportunity for everybody to point out things that the others might not have heard. So I don't want us to get sloppy here. I worked at Goldman Sachs in New York, and I promise you that was not an environment where a whole lot of people sat around for weeks making up their minds about things. But there was a certain level of sufficiency of analysis before the trigger was pulled. You can do that fast or you can do that slow, but when it gets to the point where an individual has an idea and it gets taken to the staff and it's brought back to the rest of us for a vote, that's getting sloppy. This outfit has to work like a team. We need to work together. You don't want to be the one that is sitting in this meeting and hears about something that's up for a vote that you didn't even know about. So this time you weren't. There was obviously a general awareness and consensus on this issue. I'm not opposed to the issue. It was never my intention, as you pointed out, to say no to this thing, but you just don't want to come in here and sit in a public meeting and see a thing come up for vote and you had no idea what it was. I don't know how to vote on that. So I hope we can strike the balance between impatient and young and deliberate and old, or whatever you want to call it, but I don't want to see us compromise our quality of transparency and deliberation in the process. Thank you.
Madam Mayor?
Yes.
Oh, sorry,
Please.
Mr. Gregg says it's his turn.
Yeah, it was. I didn't know if it was on the subject. Mr.
Yes, it's
Phipps.
on the subject, and
Okay.
I'm glad Mr. Driggs brought it up, because I seem to think that at one time, we had discussed in a prior committee, I think the Governance and Accountability Committee, about giving the manager, raising the authority level by which he could approve things. And other municipalities in North Carolina, I guess Raleigh is one that we compare ourselves to, they've given the manager authority of $500,000. So it looks like if that's the threshold then that the manager could work with, then I would say that we should go and let us vote on, because some of these items we vote on are way under that. Yeah. And I wonder, why are we saying grace over this $150,000 contract when we're paying this, the city manager hundreds of thousands
for his
to make
expertise, not the money, for his expertise and skill.
So I would think that we should come and raise that level, because now I think, is it 100,000?
Yes, it's 100,000.
Yeah, so it's 100,000. I mean, we're a growing city. We need to do something about it and grant him the authority that he deserves, and maybe we can move from some of these things.
I thought that at the retreat that we said that we would come back with 300,000,
Well,
but I
now
don't remember what it is.
I think it's a proxy, de facto 500,000.
I think someone did say 500, but I just remember, I think some people.
Yeah, I said
Is that a
300.
motion?
Yeah, I remember who said
300, but
Yes, he
now it
did
looks
say,
like
Greg was the
the
one that
trigger
said
is
300.
500 now, so.
So, okay, Ms. Mayfield? I'm sorry, Mr. Bakari, sorry. If I don't write things down anymore at this time of night, actually. It's not even
Of course, and I've already said it, agree with Councilman Driggs and what he said. I also agree with what I heard from Councilman Winston and Councilwoman Ashmera. I think there's a bridge here, which is, you know, $500,000, no matter what. I don't think anyone should balk at that. It's a large sum of money, and also we should have discussions about these things. It's not just about checking the box and we had the discussion. We might come up with better ideas on how to deploy it. So maybe the bridge between these two counterpoints here is, if we can't figure out how to change and innovate and create a committee structure that can be nimble enough to handle $500,000, $200,000 or $300,000 or $400,000 items creatively, maybe that's where we circle back to some of these other things we've been talking about for a couple months now. The use of Slack and the ability to kind of have the conversation and dialogue on demand. And you know, so I would ask the question to be, if the committee structure is not nimble enough to be able to handle things, not 30, 60, 90, but 7, 14, 21 days, right? If we can't do that and make that work that way, then where do we think out of the box, like Councilman Winston said? Because Councilman Driggs' point is very valid. We need to have that discussion. I didn't know anything about this, and while we might have said it's in consent and we discussed it at the retreat, things were discussed at a very high, hazy level where we're all like, yeah, circular economy is great. And there might have been $500,000 in the budget for something, but those two being combined in the consent agenda, that was like a new business kind of agenda item to me. So how we can figure out how to maybe tweak both of those sides, I think we'd all be better served.
Okay, so now it's time for council topics. I think we are okay to how we're going to operate on Wednesday. I think we've heard some things that we might put on for future agenda, you know, manager authority.
I'd like to make a motion.
Like that. Yes.
No council topics tonight.
No council topics? Okay.
Second.
No, I don't feel like that's going to be his motion.
Okay. All right, so why don't we start with Ms. Ashmera and we'll go around. Oh, I'm sorry, you were serious.
We've been talking, like I said, we've been talking about this literally every week. So I'm going to make a motion that we put together an ad hoc committee that looks at how we our structure of government, how we can update how we go about our business.
We don't need an ad hoc committee. We had a governance and accountability before, and it hasn't been reappointed.
Yeah, we did have that.
So we just
I
have
was
to
on it.
reinstate governance and
Well,
accountability?
I will make a motion to reinstate the Governance and Accountability Committee.
And what would be the question that you would ask them to do? When you say look at the form of government, when you say what would that mean?
Look about
Look at what?
To put together all of these issues that we have identified time and time again over the past, 5.5 months of doing business, and come up with solutions or actions that would better make our processes better in how we go about governing the city.
Ms. Mayor Pro Tem.
I would agree with that. I feel like we have these conversations in silos. We've talked about, you know, a lot of us have different opinions on the committee process. I don't feel like it is robust enough, but we have to have a place that we have that conversation. And I would like to see that committee come back, whether it's ad hoc or it's permanent. We just have to have a place that we can have these discussions.
Second the motion.
And I do agree that our council structure is outdated. I don't think we can keep up with all the work this city has to do. We want to be a sophisticated city, and we can't keep up with it under this structure. Bless you.
Bless you.
Way to go, Greg.
Okay, so, it's been a long day and a long night, and I don't know how everybody feels. Would you rather have this conversation on next week when everybody's up for it, or do you want to do it right now?
I would.
Okay, you got a motion? You're right, I'm just asking the questions. Everybody be ready and prepared to do
Mayor,
this.
can I
Yes,
add my comment, since
Mayfield,
I'm
yes.
the one
Ms.
on
Mayfield,
here
Ms.
who was vice chair of the committee we're talking about regarding the governance and accountability. One of the things, as far as having a conversation, as far as the dollar amount that the manager will have access to, there was a lot of conversation about it. Part of our challenge is we keep saying 5 months. It hasn't been 5 months. We had no committee meetings in the month of January, so we really have only been having committee meetings for 4 months because we're in May right now. So we're, along with trying to get to know each other around this dais, some committees are only meeting once a month. Some committees may have 2 meetings. We were given a new structure of how committee topics are going to be addressed and what rises to the top. When we were first given a booklet, there were a number of questions for people who had been around the dais previously that said there were things that we were working on that did not make its way to the top, that we're still trying to figure out and have conversation on. So part of the challenge is the fact that for some people, it feels like, and you know what, I'm not even going to speak, that everybody loves to speak for themselves. So for me, the presentations that was submitted did not feel like it came from a collective, and the challenge that I am seeing is our city manager has 11 individual council members plus a mayor. There's in essence 12 bosses. Out of those 12, it is the city manager's responsibility to not only work with your assistant city managers, to then work with us to make sure that your council is on the same page. If I go, which I have done over the years of being in this role, when I go to Deborah Campbell when she was planning director, or once she became assistant city manager, or directly to Pam Whiteman when our former mayor first appointed me to a committee, they let me know, okay, this sounds great, Councilman Mayfield, but we need to talk, make sure that everybody is on the same page, because at the end of the day, it takes 6 votes. Now we're saying, okay, 6 new people have come on. This is nothing new. It is a 2-year cycle. There's always going to be anywhere from 1 to 11 new council members sitting around this dais. If we're talking about upgrading the process and trying to streamline it, that's cute. That's great. We can move forward with it, but it cannot be a process where I individually go and plead my case for my pet project to the manager, and then we either have a discussion of city time and commitment around it, or it's presented in the form of a consent, and you don't have multiple people that are versed on it, because we're all responsible to go back to our constituents. And if someone asks us the question, we should at least have the basic understanding of what it is that we're talking about. And for some people around the table, we're saying, you know what? I did not know that was in there until once I read it, or once it was presented. So it is a place where we have to figure out how to have a conversation so that more than 1, 2, or 3 people have an idea of what we're talking about, and I need to know that as our city manager moves forward, that one, we're working directly with our assistant city managers, because a lot of us utilize them more than the manager's office, and knowing that there's a collaboration and a conversation that's happening so that we're on the same page, and that individually we're being referred back. If I'm coming and present something about community safety, I would expect you to tell me, okay, have you talked to council member or Mayor Pro Tem Isel since she's the chair of the committee? Now, yes, previously, on previous council, we may have learned that through our training, that that's how it goes, but that is not how this conversation seems to be going since we've had a transition. That is what I think will be helpful, because we're having too many individual conversations, and then when we come around the dais, we're doing something that historically has never been done, because normally we have these deeper conversations either in committee, or we at least know someone else asked the question and we reach out to each other, opposed to having it around the dais.
I'm not sure what you're asking right now.
I'm not asking anything. I made a statement to the city manager about the fact that what would be helpful is if I, as an individual, come and present something, I'm hoping that between you, working with your assistant city managers, you know to redirect me to my colleagues. If I'm coming to you about something in public safety, I shouldn't be the one pushing forward an issue or concern around public safety when I don't even sit on the committee. I should at least be working with the chair of the committee, or at least talking to some of my colleagues to find out, is this something you're even working on? So that we're all on the same page. We got an overview at our retreat that said circular economy. That was the first time we heard about it. Some people thought it was a great idea. I was like, you bringing in people from out of the country, I don't see how that ties into what we have going on. I still had questions. Those questions didn't come back up. We get a presentation saying we're going to move forward with it.
Okay.
But I still want to recognize that as everyone else has a chance to share whatever it is, or we send out an email or try to have side meetings about something outside the fact, if we can't have clear communication amongst ourselves, then we're going to continue to run into this obstacle over and over again. And it's not about trying to undermine anyone. It's about us at least being on the same page, even if we don't agree.
Okay, I have Mr. Bakari and Mr. Newton.
Thank you.
Yes, and then, yes, go ahead, Mr. Bakari.
When we first got sworn in and you went around and asked the GAC, Government Affairs, or Government Accountability, was actually one of the ones I was most interested in for this very reason, because we could think about deploying technology in new ways and stuff like that. I would just make the comment, I won't make a counter motion or anything like that. I just make the comment, I'm violent agreement with everyone who has supported in favor of bringing this committee back. I'm there, 100%. I think we could do so much. I have also, though, seen our mayor over the last couple months, and never once have I seen her with seeing a majority of people behind one thing, not take it away and take it to heart. I don't know that we need to vote on that right now. I think she's heard it. If we could give her a week to go back and talk with staff and the manager and spec this thing out and say, all right, let's get the scope very specific. If it's ad hoc or if it's ongoing, what are the things that are going to be flowing in here so we can be measurable? And then if we're not satisfied after that in a week or so, let's vote on it then. But my sentiment would be, give her the opportunity. That's her role. Give her the opportunity. She's heard us loud and clear. Have her bring something back to us.
Is that a substitute motion?
I'd be willing to make a substitute
motion.
We have a motion.
No, you do not have a motion yet, because our council rules of procedure say if any one person objects, you cannot just put something on the agenda that's not on the agenda. So let's follow our rules. I mean, we all have that, and we know that. We've known it for a while. So all I'm asking is, let's have the conversation so we can at least understand what we're doing. We're not going to go from a motion to this. And I'm going to say one other thing after Mr. Newton is done. Mr. Newton?
Yeah, so quick question. How does this work, Mr. City Attorney? Is it not within the purview and discretion of the mayor to create committees, appoint within the committee, or can we, as a city council, make that decision, if even on an ad hoc basis?
So if I could, let me clarify what the mayor just said, and then I'll answer your question. In terms of taking up a matter that's not on the agenda, and this is a matter that's not on the agenda. Your rules say you can bring it up for discussion, but you can't take action unless it's unanimous to add it to the agenda. The other way a council member can have a matter added to the agenda is to bring it up and it will be put on a future agenda unless somebody objects, and that could include the manager, in which case it takes 6 votes to put it on the next agenda. So technically, you can't vote on the motion without first adding it to the agenda, and that has to be unanimous. Now, Mr. Newton, to your question, and I've had this conversation with several of you in some cases over the years. There is nothing in state law that speaks to council committees at all. There is nothing in your city charter that speaks to council committees at all. The practice and history of how committees have been used by city councils, by mayors and city councils in Charlotte is just that. It's practice, and the tradition has been that the mayor, with consensus, I believe, and consent of the council, has generally arranged for committees and made appointments for committees. But that's practice and tradition, that is not law. Ultimately, to answer the question, I believe that the council, because they are committees of the council could exercise that authority, but it has, by practice, been largely left to the mayor.
I'd like to ask for unanimous consent to add the reinstatement of the GAT committee to tonight's agenda.
Before we do that, I'd like to say that if you recall when we created the committees and we were trying to get people so that we could get, it takes, most of our committees have 5 people, there are 11 people. There are now currently 6 committees. When I said that we would not have a gap, if you look at the charge to the budget committee, which generally worked really hard during the budget, I said they have the responsibility also for audit and effectiveness and efficiencies. And to me, that fits within their purview. Now, that may be something that, because we've been doing budget, that the committee hasn't really looked at seriously, but the charge was not to not have the discussion, but it was to try to get it so that every one of us has, how many people are on more than 3 committees right now?
3.
How many people are on more than 3?
More than 3.
So what we were trying to do was make it so with 11 people to serve, and having now 6 committees, that we would have the opportunity for people to participate. That sometimes, and there's been this, I've heard this, that, you know, the mayor says you can only have 1 committee meeting. I said that we should have at least 1 committee meeting. There was never any rule that said you couldn't meet every other day. But there's somehow some idea that it was kind of like defined as something. So I would like to say that if you feel like that the committees, you need to have 7 committees for 11 people to serve, if we're going to have 5, but the charge to the budget committee included those responsibilities. Now, perhaps it's not been something that's been on the top of the list because budget has been, stormwater and those things, but the audit as well as issues of efficiency and effectiveness were to be put in there. So with that, I think Mr. Winston just asked if there is unanimous consent to vote on this tonight. Okay. I'm asking the question. I know, is everyone in agreement? I guess, everyone agrees that we should take this up tonight?
I actually kind of see Mr. Bakari's point, and I'm willing to give you a week to weigh it.
I'd actually like to ask the budget committee to have some time to give to me to say if the charge is too much or not enough, instead of creating another 5-member committee. But that's something that I would first seek out some information about. Mr. Driggs.
I have to say, having been on the budget committee for 4.5 years, I never remember having a governance responsibility.
That wasn't because it didn't have it for 4 years. It was only after we had the new committee structure.
In this session either. I just don't remember ever being told that one of your responsibilities is governance.
Well, you may not have been told, but the charge to that was have the audits come before, because the GAP had audits and efficiency and effectiveness, and they did not meet as often as other committees. So I said, let's have 5 committees, or 6 now, but it's up to the council. But I don't think there's unanimous support for the vote tonight. So with that, Mr. Phipps.
Yeah, one of the things that I was considering after this budget process was over, because usually people, you know, do a sigh of relief that the budget is over and we don't have any more budget committee meetings until like the fall. I was thinking that maybe we should meet on a more recurring, regular basis, and then we could entertain this expanded coverage that you envision for the budget committee to include some of these things. So I would be in favor of that kind of approach.
So I'd like to talk to the Budget Committee about it. I think that we do not have unanimous support for doing that, having a vote tonight. So with that, I guess, do we need council topics tonight?
Okay, who's
going
to start?
I have one.
Yeah.
All right, Ms. Ajmira.
Okay, thank you, Madam Mayor. So I have two items. So I'll start with number one. So speaking of committee meetings, I'd like to provide you all an update on clean energy resolution. So Environment Committee continues to lead the discussion on clean energy resolution. I know we all have received several emails on that. And we are continuing to work on strategic action plan to meet our clean energy goals. And about 2 weeks ago, the committee reviewed the draft for the clean energy resolution. Since then, we have heard from many faith leaders, environment advocates, and business community about the direction we are taking. We are working with staff to address their questions, and we'll have another stakeholders meeting before the Environment Committee votes on the resolution. And I will send out an email with the stakeholders information. And if you're interested in attending the stakeholders meeting, which is made up of over 40 individuals that comes from various communities, from environment to business to faith communities, and I'll keep you all posted on that. The second item I have here is I would like to recognize some outstanding women who is here with the City of Charlotte, who are nominated as 50 most influential women. So for 2018, we have 3 city employees. One is Ms. Kim Eagle, I should say Dr. Kim Eagle. She has a PhD. Congratulations to you. Also, we have our communications director, Sandy, how do you say her last name? De La Soul. She's also 2018 honorary of this award. And then we have Housing Development Program Manager, Zaleka Bierman. I would also like to congratulate her for this award. And our past honoraries have been our mayor pro temp, many folks from CMPD, and our assistant city manager, Deborah Campbell. So, thank you. So, congratulations to all the outstanding women that we have with City of Charlotte. We are glad that you work for the City of Charlotte. Okay, that's all.
I don't know which way we're going.
Anyone else? Go that way.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. So 2 things I want to make sure the community is aware of. On Wednesday evening, starting, I believe, at 6 p.m., will be Rio Out Charlotte, the Queen City's LGBTQ Film Festival. It is the 10th annual celebration. We heard from a number of people earlier regarding Arts and Science Council. Art is one of the many factors that companies and headquarters look to. How vibrant is your arts community when they're looking to relocate or make an investment? So I want to make sure that the community is aware that that starts on Wednesday, and it will actually be happening in Camp North End. And you can go to reelout, reelout.org for more information and for ticket prices. And I also would like to thank Donna Morrell and our Charlotte Mecklenburg Community Relations Committee, as well as the entire team in the Community Relations Committee. On Thursday evening, we will be celebrating our 39th annual Community Police Awards, the Community Relations Police Awards. This is the time, if you have not had a chance, you still have a little time to submit information, because they're always accepting applications. If you have an outstanding officer that has gone above and beyond and made an impact and a positive difference in your community, one of our neighborhood officers or a CMPD officer that was there for you, you can contact Ms. Donna Morrell at 704-807-3064. The award ceremony is happening again this Thursday evening starting at 7, but this is just an opportunity where we get to highlight our CMPD officers and thank them for the work that they continue to do in our community. But I definitely wanted to take a moment to thank Ms. Morrell and her entire team, because she has been leading this effort and leading the effort of the fundraising so that the officers can be gifted with a little financial thank you. So, Ms. Morrell, thank you for everything that you do for our community.
Mr. Phipps.
Thank you. I would just like to highlight for the group, I had an opportunity this past Friday to host a delegation from China, from our sister city Baoding and another Chinese city of Shenzhen. We had a delegation, and there we treated them to lunch, and we had afterwards we came to the Old City Hall and had a dessert. Councilmember Braxton and I were attending that, representing Charlotte. But it was a great opportunity because I guess back last year I went to China and both of those cities, and they were reciprocating. And so on behalf of the mayor, they presented some gifts from Baoding, and hopefully she will receive those soon and be able to put those in our office. Or we have a display case downstairs on the second floor with the Baoding case there that they might be included in those. But it was just a great time. I mean, they thoroughly enjoyed the opportunity to host them. They're interested in Charlotte. They had 2 other cities that they were visiting after they left Charlotte. They were going to San Francisco and then to Seattle. But I made it known they need not go to those cities since they already had been to Charlotte, that we will be more than welcome to entertain business opportunities and grow our relationship. So it was a good time, and I just wanted to share that with the group, that we do have some international sister cities that are interested in engaging with Charlotte. I know we got Kumasi that was just re-engaged as a sister city with us. And so I think we're going to have more of those opportunities on a go-forward basis to share the relationships.
Mr. Bakari.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I have 2 very exciting updates that you are not going to want to miss, everyone. The first one, most important right now, not most important, second most important, sorry, is tomorrow, Tuesday, 5:30 p.m., I will be hosting a District 6 Town Hall. It's at the Morrison Library, 5:30 p.m., and it's the theme is a focus on customer service. Really want to drill into unheard voices, concerns, big ideas that people have, also little concerns or little ideas. Really, the inspiration came for me in this town hall. You know, our staff does a wonderful job, but occasionally I get phone calls of someone who hasn't been able to make their way through the talking process with staff to get something done, and they call me, and I call staff, and staff says, okay, sure, we'll get it done. How do we figure out a customer service model, like a private sector company, where if we can get it done with one call from me, we can get it done within the existing process that exists? So we've got a great beginning update. We're going to discuss the budget, and we're going to do a bit of a straw poll from the district to have a finger on the pulse and see where people's heads are. Then we've got our police chief, who's going to come and discuss public safety. Our new fire chief is going to come introduce to the group and discuss a bit of his priorities. We've got our new planning director, who is going to come talk about the UDO process. We're going to talk a bit about South Park CNIP and then development in the area. And then finally, our director of the airport is going to come talk about airport's growth, as well as respond to some community feedback we got on airport noise. So we have a really packed agenda. That is the second most important update I have tonight. The first most important update is that today was and is my daughter Charlie May's 3rd birthday. I ducked out earlier and live streamed with her when she blew out the candles to the cake. So Charlie May, happy 3rd birthday. I'll be home soon and I'll wake you up.
Wow.
All right.
Mr. Newton.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. I wanted to take a moment and thank all of the wonderful citizens who showed up tonight to speak during the public forum. Have your voice heard on some salient and very important issues that we're going to have a lot to talk about and think about here over the next couple of weeks pertaining to our budget. I also wanted to take a quick moment and thank the city manager, as well as the city manager's office and the city staff members who worked so hard to put together this proposed budget. We, you know, at some point, we needed a starting point, right? And I just wanted to let you know how appreciative I am of your hard work, and as we move forward, I just wanted to thank you in advance as well.
All right, Mr. Eggleston.
I like you too, Marcus. That's not my announcement. I have a couple things. One, just want to congratulate all the people who on Tuesday were successful in the primary, and thank you to those who weren't. We appreciate you offering your service and hope you'll continue to find ways to do that. Second, if you'd like to come to an even more fun town hall, the District 1 Town Hall will be held this Saturday from noon to 2 p.m. at the Midwood International Cultural Center on Central Avenue. And I don't know what Tarek's serving, but we're having food from Queen City Q, so I'm guessing mine's better.
We're not serving any food.
District 1, responsibility.
No government handouts in D6.
Come to my town hall, you'll get fed. It's going to be about historic preservation, so we've got an incredible lineup of speakers from the historic preservation realm, the development realm, local historians, and so please come out so you can learn how we can better preserve historic landmarks, historic neighborhoods, and the things that make Charlotte special. So that's, again, Saturday from noon to 2 p.m. at the Midwood International Cultural Center. And lastly, I want to thank Bethany Darnley and Caitlin Sellers, who, along with several other organizations, including the City of Charlotte was involved today, put on the Charlotte Student Entrepreneur Summit at CPCC that was instilling the ideals of entrepreneurship into some of our young people from local high schools. It was well attended. It was a very energetic and enthusiastic group, and I appreciated their inviting me to be involved. Thanks.
Oh, I didn't know if I had to do, okay, great.
Yeah, go ahead.
Let's keep it rolling. A couple quick announcements for me. I had the great pleasure last week, and I'm glad to see Councilmember Eccleston, Mayor Pro Tem, the mayor in District 2 at Camp North End at the North End Smart District as we opened up and cut the ribbon for The Nest. The Nest is located at the Hooga Co-working Space at Camp North End. It's a tech learning lab, provides access to high-speed internet, technology education, digital literacy training, and a true example of how the public side and us at the city and our sustainability efforts and technology efforts, coupled with the community efforts of the North End Community Coalition, and also some private partners with Google and Red Ventures to kind of get that going. There's some other partners: Black Tech Charlotte, Tech Charlotte Youth Programming, Queens University, and the Charlotte and the Digital Charlotte Group, all kind of coming together to really start providing some tech education for our youth here in the city, some career development pathways in the city. So it's now open at Camp North End. The Road to Hire program specifically through Red Ventures is now open for high school grads looking to kind of jumpstart their great careers. You can apply to the Road to Hire program, which is going to help with professional development and leadership training in tech industries. roadtohire.org/enrollment/enrollment. So check that out. It was a great opportunity to be there, and then really just to really embrace Camp North End over the weekend with all of the events that they had. Saw Councilmember Winston and Mr. Driggs there as well this weekend through a lot of their events that they had. One last thing, part of our Sunset, Beatties Ford Road, CNIP, the Lakeview Road roundabout, and also the Cushing Drive and Old Statesville infrastructure improvements will have a public meeting on Thursday, the 17th, from 6 to 7:30. It's more of a drop-in meeting to discuss some of the alternatives around what we've heard over the past really 7 to 8 months in some public engagement sessions and charrettes through our CNIP process. Some staff will be there to answer new questions, provide new feedback, and some different design phase renderings. So that's going to take place at David Cox Road Elementary at 4215 Davis Cox Road next Thursday from 6 to 7:30. So these are your bond dollars at work, and so we want to make sure that we get great attendance so these see these projects through. Thank you.
Yesterday was Mother's Day. I hope everybody showed due appreciation to the moms. And I certainly did, so I want to shout out to the mother of my 2 children. And Madam Mayor, I'd like to yield the rest of my time to Councilmember Winston.
Councilmember Winston, you have been yielded.
After he thanks his mother of his children, you know. Glad to know I'm second in line. I have 2 things. Look, I have no doubt that we will, that there will be a $50 million housing bond on the referendum in November. I have no doubt that the people of Charlotte will pass this. But that means that we have to figure out what we're going to do with it. We on this, around this dais, I think as soon as this budget is passed, we have to come up with a master plan of what we're going to do with this money. We need to know, and everybody out here needs to know that some of that money is already spent. So there's not going to be $50 million in it when it gets passed. And we have to get real serious doing this work. That's the next step, is figuring out what we're going to do with this over the next 2 years while this money is in the account. So I hope that we can get past kind of the processes and really get into something that makes sense on how we're going to come up with solutions for this city. So that work will continue, and I'll just also call out as my, I'll conclude my comments, that this weekend was a hot weekend. It was probably the first weekend that we were over the 90s. It was a very violent weekend as well. I don't know if there's any official correlation, but wherever I come from, when you know the summer's coming, you know some bad things happen. And this weekend was no different. So I know that if this was this time last year, we might have had more discussions about the homicide rate, or even if it was a couple months ago. But we can't keep our eyes off, got to keep our eyes on the prize and know that our communities are hurting, our neighborhoods are hurting. This is why we're having these discussions on trying to get this money into projects like affordable housing and neighborhood building and getting jobs. It's because our neighborhoods are in pain. Families, this is Mother's Day, and there were more mothers this weekend burying their kids. So it's really on us, again, to get our business right so we can do the real work for the real reasons that we're here. And it's to make this city all that it can be so that people can live here, people can work here, people can eat and play here. Thank you.
I have 2 comments. First, Councilmember Ajmira was very kind to point out some of the 50 most influential women. She didn't mention she is amongst that list as well, so congratulations to Councilmember Ajmira for that honor. And secondly, I want to announce my town hall meeting on May 31st, and the topic is around community safety. Where have we been and where are we going? So Chief Putney will be joining me for that from 6 to 7:30. We're honing in on the location right now, trying to firm that up. So either connect with me or through the various city channels, and we'll get that location firmed up. But that's on Thursday, May 31st. Thank you.
Will you be providing food as well?
You know, I'm going to wait and see how good your food is, and well, you're not having any, but yours, and then I'm going to make that decision. So.
So I also wanted to congratulate Councilmember Ajmira and the other staff members that we have on that list. It's a nice ceremony on Friday. Good luck with that.
You're coming, right? Expecting you.
They're expecting me.
Yeah.
Okay. I guess I'll be coming then. So there are 2 things that I wanted to follow up. You know, we had an opportunity to meet on the crisis communication, which I wanted to say was an initiative that came out of our retreat. It was something that was on the top of the list for us to get done, and I think it was done well, and it reminded me of the work that we've been doing, including a hot summer crises and that we may need to be prepared for. And one of the very first things that we talked about were these networks that we had and we've established and how they're working. And I know that we're going to come back with a report. I hope those of you that didn't have a chance to attend will be able to participate and give some feedback or hear from the consultant or BK about it. But I think that we do need to be prepared for the protocols that we wanted to have in place even before the plan is done. If there's an incident this summer, you know, we had it wasn't necessarily, it was like a network and a protocol about social media and who to call. And I think that's an important thing for us to pay attention to. I also wanted to recognize another achievement. Stephanie Kelly is going to be leaving to become the International City Clerks President, and we want to say congratulations to you, Stephanie, and the best of that. You've worked really hard. And we know that it always hasn't been easy, and this might be the time that you may just remember to celebrate this one because you deserve it, and know that we're all stand with you. Then the final thing that I wanted to talk with you or inform you is that I've been invited to go to Washington to speak in the House of Representatives on our budget plan and what it includes for housing and our community development block grant programs. So I'll be going to DC on Thursday and back on Friday in time to go and see the 50 influential women ceremony. If everything works well, we'll do that. And so with that, if that's Annette, can I have a motion for adjournment?
So moved. Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Okay, we're adjourned.